she herself says is a bit weird, is this book didn't start as a character-driven book. She started with the world building.
No, I don't believe her. I don't believe this. The world building sucks. Quack.
Welcome to the Little Duck Book Club. We both read the same book and we're going to talk about it today. The book in question is Serpent and Dove by, and I watched a video where she says her own name, Shelby Mahurin, because I did not know how to pronounce
I was
that.
also like in preparation, I was like, how do I even pronounce this? Do I care enough to look this up?
Like, I looked through interviews with her where she describes the book and talks about it and everything, but they were all written. So I thought, shit, I don't know how to, like...
That's so much research.
But it's Mahurin. Yeah,
okay,
because I wanted to know her thoughts behind writing it. And
okay. Her thoughts were tall men are hot, I guess, which...
Beefy tall men are hot. Yeah, I mean... So let's first talk about the book itself. It came out in 2019. It's the first book in a trilogy, and I think the trilogy just got finished. I think this year even.
A trilogy? I thought it was a duology, but...
There's a third book, it's called God and War, I think.
Oh, wow. Well,
there's a black book, a red book, and a white book.
Oh, wow, the symbolism.
Yeah. I have to admit, if we go just right from the start, I do like the title of the book, because it does tie in with things that you read about in the book, like the doves and the main character being called a serpent several times. I did like it. I have to admit that.
The thing is, the title is good. The cover art is good. The title and cover art of the sequel that I've seen is also good.
It's
Blood
amazing.
and Honey, great title. Just the cover art, it's very good. Well done. The summary also sounds good. Excellent marketing. The contents, however, are much less good.
Questionable. So, for those of you who do not know, basically the story of this book is the typical opposites attract, supposedly, story. We have Louise Leblanc. I did take Latin in high school, so all the French... I'm about to say.
French. Oh, I have opinions on the French.
It's questionable. She fled. In the beginning, we don't know where exactly she fled from. She's just on the run. We don't really know why. She is a witch, a Dames Blanche. You say it.
A Dame Blanche, yeah.
Dame Blanche. All right. Which is one kind of witch. We get to know several. Well, two. And then we have the love interest. His name is Reed Diggory, so he's basically the Irish in the world of France. He's tall, he's a redhead, and he is a witch hunter. So basically his whole shtick is to kill people like Lou. And through some coincidences, they get together, more like they're stuck together. And yeah, that's the story of the book. And on paper, I thought this was going to be amazing. I mean, I knew what you told me, but I don't know.
Yeah, I've read it once before. I went into it very positively the first time because I was like, well, I love me some enemies to lovers, if it's well written. I love me some witch-themed stuff, witch and witch hunter stuck in like a marriage where the witch has to hide who she is and stuff. Sounds promising. And my positive attitude crumbled quite fast, and what was left at the end of my first read-through was like rage and betrayal at the quality of the narrative I was delivered.
That's the fourth book, Rage and Betrayal.
Yeah, I have been I've been complaining about it, so and I was like, well, now I'm curious. Let's read it to have a conversation about it, and maybe. I know you're a lot more
forgiving,
I guess,
maybe
forgiving to books, and you're a lot more chill about your ratings, and I'm just a hater at heart, so I'm like, I hate this. This is, if I could give it 0 stars, I would give it 0 stars. If I could give it negative stars, now after a second read through, I'd give it negative stars, but alas.
Maybe for context, we have a list of books which we both have read, and then we both re-rate them. And when we decided which book to read for our first episode, we went through the list, and basically we decided that it'd be nice to have a book that one of us has already read. And I went through all of the ratings, and Serpent Dove is the only one that you rated with a 0. So I was like, let's go. I'm so ready for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I read through her interviews because one of the things that I wondered why is it like this is the French thing, and the reason, which she herself says is a bit weird, is this book didn't start as a character-driven book. She started with the world building.
No, I don't believe her. I don't believe this. The world building sucks.
So world building, in like
in quotes, yeah.
She was really interested in the name Dame Blanche. This is hard for my German mouth. Dame Blanche. She was interested in that idea, and then she kind of went with it. And in the first rough draft of the book, they also had the French werewolves. Loup Carré, or what it's called.
Yeah.
And that was her idea to say, all right, if I have this idea from French mythology and I have the other idea from France, I'm just gonna make it in a setting of a French world. And then she was like, okay, which characters could I have in this world? And that's basically the whole reasoning why, because she stuck with these Dame Blanches and she didn't want to change the name or anything. She wanted to go with that. And then she, crossed out the werewolves and just went with witches.
I was like, is this why Reed has these incredible anger issues? Because he used to be a werewolf, and that's like
Maybe.
a typical werewolf thing? Like,
perhaps.
Oh my god.
I thought it was so weird that, everyone has French names. Everyone is so French. And then you have Reed Diggory, the ginger boy.
Reed Diggory. I even looked it up because I was like, Reed Diggory, there is no way this is a French name, because I was already looking into some of the names because I was like, this doesn't sound French.
Yeah.
And so Reed Diggory, I was like, okay, Reed, Irish name, no relationship to France. And then Diggory is like, oh, it's rooted in a French name, Degas, but the only people who have this name live in the UK, the US, and Canada, and people who emigrated. But it's not a French name at all. It's like, oh, the name has French roots, like half of the English lexicon does, because they just adopted it because French was the popular language in Europe for quite a long time, which is why a lot of languages in Europe have French words in them, and English has particularly many, for very many historical reasons. But anyway, it's like, why is the second main character, who was born in France, adopted by a French bishop, or raised in a French orphanage, why does he have an Irish first name, and why is the name Diggory the name for all orphan children?
I didn't get that. I really did not get that.
The book mentions, because Ansel, which is also not a typically French name.
No, it's Ansel,
Ansel, right. Also is named Diggory, and he mentions that Diggory is the last name given to all the orphans given to the church. And it's like, why? It's not a French name. This makes zero sense.
I thought it was especially weird because Lou gives them gives them a last name that is specific for people from the street or something. It was. Is it LeBlanc or something? She gives them a fake second name.
isn't the second name like LaRue or something?
Yes,
which
she says
literally
LaRue.
means the street.
So, like,
Which
if they have this special name for orphans or people on the street, like living on the street, thieves, like the Jane Doe thing, why is Diggory the name for orphan children?
Why wouldn't it just be a very common French name, like a typical last name, like Smith is for English-speaking countries? Like, why wouldn't it be a French name? Why is it Diggory? I don't know, because Shelby really liked the name Diggory and was like, yeah, it's fine. No one will notice. I noticed.
It doesn't make any sense. It's one of those things where if you already come up with a naming convention, like LaRue, then why would you go with a completely different thing on the other side? Also, he's the only Diggory we meet. Are there no other Diggories? Is he the only? Did they have an orphanage for just him?
No. Ansel or Ansel also says his name is Diggory, which is why it comes up. And Lou is like, are you like a long lost cousin? And he's like, no, I'm also an orphan. Isn't this sad? And it's like, no, this is very typical that children
then I forgot that.
Work for the church.
Shame on me.
How could you forget such an incredibly important detail of this incredibly gripping story? How could you? Shame.
So maybe let's go through the motions. Let's go through the story. So the setup, I think, is interesting and is fine. I like it when it's not immediately explained what's happening. We know she's on the run. She has a witchy friend, Coco, which I thought was weird that the only person of color is named Coco. That kind of, like
I understand that Coco would be a typically, like, it fits the French nicknaming convention for her name, Cosette. However, I feel like naming a black female character basically after a food item is a little cringe. Let's call it cringe.
It was a bit weird.
It's weirdly insensitive, and it's like, why? You could, it could be, you could have given her literally any name. Like, why this? We don't know. But anyway, she's on the run from something. She has a mysterious backstory, which is nice. It's good to have questions about your main character. She's introduced as a career criminal, which, okay. With her friend, Cosette, whose nickname is Coco, who's, like, a black woman. Okay. And they are in a brothel to overhear a criminal conversation between a guy who smuggles magical objects and the brothel owner. And they are also scandalized at the fact that criminal activity is happening in a brothel, even though they are career criminals. I
can't. The whole situation. I thought it was really funny that they were disguised as men, obviously, because that's the one person who is not suspicious in a brothel, which I thought was like really funny. But then what you just mentioned, Lou was so, like, for Coco, it felt like she was like, yeah, I mean, come on, this is a brothel, there's some dubious activity going on, but Lou was so fucking shocked when they went into that room, which was behind the paintings, and then the eyes moved away from the painting and she could look in. She was like, oh, what is this treachery? And I thought,
she was
come
like,
on.
What do you mean? There are secret ways to spy on the people who are using the brothel's rooms. Like, wow, Lou, crazy. I wonder why this is here, and how surprising that that a fucking brothel that you were in because you know suspicious criminal activity is going to go down also does other shady shit. Crazy.
Especially because it wasn't their first time. They had dealings with one of the prostitutes at the brothel. She wasn't the boss. The boss was somebody else. It felt like this wasn't the first time that they exchanged information for money. So why were they so surprised? That was one of the things that I was a bit baffled by, but I thought, come on, she's, I don't know. She's just a dainty little girl.
the thing is, I think it might be better if we just give a short summary of the entire book first, because we're again losing ourselves in details a little bit. So the story is as follows. We have Lou and Coco, who at the beginning are after a magical artifact, which is a special ring that can both nullify magic and also hide you and make you invisible and impossible to find. So they're at this brothel to get information. Then they get the information where this ring is in, and then afterwards, Lou runs into the other main character, Reed, and he immediately sees through her disguise as a man. And
I think her
she's
mustache
suspicious.
falls off or something. Her disguise falls literally like off her.
Yeah, that's true. But they meet, and he immediately figures out she's not a man, she's a woman disguised, and they both witness a procession of the royal family that gets attacked by evil witches. And Lou runs away, and Reed, as a witch hunter, is there to try to kill witches. So, that's how they meet. Then, later that day, Lou and Coco and another friend who's just tangentially relevant to the story go to break into the house where the ring is kept, but somebody has informed the witch hunters that a witch will be there, so they almost get caught, but Cosette manages to run away, and also Lou uses the ring they stole to become invisible and run away. And but not before Reed recognizes her again at the house. Like, how much does she suck as a criminal? That's not the point. So they stole a ring from that house, and then through some convoluted circumstances, they meet again in... This is... Trying to summarize this shows how stupid this is. They meet again in a theater because Lou is squatting in the theater, because apparently that's not suspicious and nobody finds her. She's squatting there and then runs into Reed, who just went to see a performance. He chases her through the building. They fall onto the stage. Everybody assumes he was assaulting her for some reason.
I think because her bodice is like slightly ripped.
Yeah, she still has like blood on it from the night before, because she couldn't be bothered to change her clothing.
No, she couldn't.
Anyway, through stupid and convoluted circumstances, people assume he assaulted her, and for some reason, this means that the Archbishop, who is also there, decides that the only solution is that they get married immediately.
I think that's a solid solution to this problem.
This is so stupid. Anyway, they get married. She moves into the house where all the witch hunters live. Shenanigans ensue where she's like, ooh, I'm so not like other girls and I don't follow the rules, and they fight a bunch. It goes back and forth. They have some, in quotes, witty banter. Then what even happens in the middle of the book?
Lou thinks that her friends, so Coco and the other tangent character, are like imprisoned, are being tortured, whatever. And for the tangent character, that's true, he is imprisoned, but Coco actually managed to sneak into the, what's it called, the cathedral or something, like the place where they all live.
Yeah,
the tower.
The witch hunters, the chasseurs, they live in a fucking tower because they're cool and epic and love going upstairs. I don't know.
Yeah.
And she has found a job there to be closer to Lou, and so that they can plan together. And over the course of the story, you find out that Lou is like kind of important for some reason to the witches, to the white magic users, to the Dame Blanche, and then over the course of the story you find out, okay, her mother is the leader of the evil witches, and she is the reason Lou ran away, because she tried to sacrifice her to through convoluted magical reasons, killed the king and his family. And a lot of stuff happens that's not really that relevant. Like, Lou gets recognized by a witch, and then that witch gets murdered. Other people try to kill Lou because she sucks at everything.
She constantly gets murdered. No, not murdered. Like, attempted murder. Yeah.
Yeah, she just sucks at everything. People want to kill her, and I'm like, you know what? They're right. They should. And eventually, it leads to Lou being kidnapped by her mother. Then her friends, Coco and Reed also, who has found out she's a witch, but also forgives her because now they're in love, try to go and rescue her, basically. And then they fight at the witch's headquarters, which is a cool castle at the other end of the island.
It's the chateau.
Chateau, yeah, genau.
Yeah, yes.
There's a big fight. It turns out Reed is
also
a witch, which is stupid, and there's also some stupid reveals about parentage involved, but anyway, she gets rescued and they leave again. It ends with Lou, Coco, Reed, and some other people going to stay with Coco's family, who is also powerful witches, but they're Dame Rouge, so they're a different coven of witches, and they don't get along with Lou's mom, so they want to be safe there. This story is so convoluted. I thought, like, summarizing it would be easy, but there's just so much that's intertwined, but a lot of it is not important, that it's like, okay.
It's really not easy. I tried to find, like, a short summary of it, so that could I have a, like, on the side while we talk. But the shortest summary I found, I would have to scroll up and down.
Yeah, no, but really,
it was.
The key points are, at the beginning, Lou and Coco and another guy, Sebastian?
Yeah,
his nickname is Bass, but I don't, which also is like, I feel like that wouldn't be a very French nickname, but they steal the ring, almost get caught, then this, through a Rube Goldberg machine of stupid circumstances, leads to Lou and Reed getting married. There's a lot of back and forth and a lot of Lou thinking, oh no, I can't let them discover I'm a witch. I forgot they hate witches, even though I live here and I shouldn't be forgetting it. For several, like, chapters, then she gets abducted and almost murdered, and then the story's over. Those are, like, the important parts.
So, one thing about the book in itself, about the structure of the book, if we're at it, I thought was weird after I read one of the interviews, was that Shelby added Reed's POV quite late. The original idea was to not have him as a POV character. And I thought, what would the last quarter or third of the book have looked like? Because, like, Lou gets kidnapped for the last 100 pages. And we don't hear from her again until the last 20 pages, where she comes back to consciousness. So all of that is Reed's POV, how they get to the chateau and everything. And I thought, how would she have structured it? Would we have gotten 100 pages of her sitting in her room at the chateau being sad?
No, we would have gotten 100 pages less, which would have been good, because this book is very repetitive and way too long. This needed an editor who was willing to cut some stuff and condense some stuff so badly. Because, like, it makes a lot of sense to me that Reed's POV was added later just from reading it, because a lot of it is pointless. A lot of it, like, not to be a dick, but Reed's pretty useless to the story for the most part. Most things happen to Lou. They aren't even, like, a result of her action. She's not a very active protagonist. A lot of things just happen to her, and he's just kind of there to watch. But the story would be more interesting if we didn't constantly have him, A, repeating things we already know happened to Lou just from a different perspective, and 2, if we didn't know that he cared about her pretty early on. Because a big part of the suspense of the story should be that Lou is surrounded by people who would kill her the moment they find out she's a witch. But from the beginning, we have Reed being like, oh, she's like a criminal.
Kind of cute.
But she is also cute and not like other girls. And she's so pretty. Look at her freckles. And it's like, okay, cool. Reed's POV does not add much to a huge chunk of the story. There are several times where you've just experienced something from Lou's POV, something serious happening to her, and then we jump back in time a bit to go to Reed's POV to experience a good chunk of it again. And it is wasted space. It is so uninteresting. He doesn't have an interesting voice. He doesn't have interesting thoughts. This man, he is lucky he's pretty. This is...
So this was one of the things that I noticed while reading, and because, I mean, as you said, I'm not a super critical reader, but this was one thing that I noticed very early on, and I thought maybe it's going to get better by the end of the book, but it's the thing that, except for the very first thing where Lou tries to get the ring, everything else is not driven by her. The whole story happens because things happen to Lou and not the other way around. Because, I mean, I like when characters get confronted with things and they have to deal with it, but I also like for the characters that I read about to take initiative every once in a while and actually do something, except for stumbling from plot point to plot point to plot point. And in the interviews, Shelby said she wanted Lou to have the best friend energy, not the main character energy, but the best friend energy. And I think this is where it might have gone wrong, because Lou does feel like the funny best friend sometimes, but your main character shouldn't be the funny best friend. You know, your main character still should have some drive. And in the beginning of the book, I thought, why are we not reading about Coco? She seems to be the interesting one here.
But Coco's story is also not interesting in the book. Like, the thing is...
Yeah, it doesn't go anywhere.
If Lou is written to feel like the best friend, no one else has protagonist energy either. Reed is just a love interest. He doesn't have drive either. He's also just there for the ride, even more than Lewis. He has even less agency because he's just in places where he sees Lou because he's been ordered to. At the parade where they first run into each other, he's there to protect the royal family from witches. At the house where she's stealing the ring, he's just there because somebody said a witch will be there, so they sent some witch hunters. He's only at the fucking theater to run into her because the Archbishop was invited to watch the fucking play.
He was also invited because he saved the king, but
he's not a very there special boy. But he only marries her because he's told to. He is with her because he has to be, and he has to look after her and make sure she doesn't, start shit at the place where he lives because he has to. He goes to save her because she got abducted and he's her husband and he guesses he's in love with her now. This man has even less agency. Nobody here makes important decisions. I would much rather read a story about, I don't know, Lou's mother, if she were written like an interesting character, which we will get to eventually. There is a whole fucking elephant in the room that I don't think Shelby intended to be there, but oh my god.
One thing that you just mentioned that annoyed me to no end while I read, while I was at that scene, was we have this. So of course, Reed for the majority of the book doesn't know that Lou is a witch, and then they're through the whole book there is this teaser that a band, like a traveling band is going to come to the city. The Ye Old Sisters. Nobody noticed that Ye Old Sisters is like, hello, we are witches. But anyway, they are coming to sing, and they are at the venue. They start singing, and pretty fast they realize, oh, these are witches, and they're trying to kill Lou like everybody else wants to kill her. And then they abduct her, and through that fight he finds out, oh, she's a witch. And we have this like very important scene, right? He finds out she's a witch, he's heartbroken, she's heartbroken, there's lots of emotions, lots of feelings, she gets abducted, and then of course he's a bit confused. But it's Coco and Ansel who have to convince him to go and save his wife, to go and save her. They're like, we have to go after them, we have to do something. And he's like, I don't know if I want to go. Like, she lied to me.
The
like,
funniest...
Come on, dude.
I also think that the funniest thing is, first of, their romance is so unnatural and forced.
Yeah.
It happens so... We have... It is not a slow burn. The book reads very slowly because it's boring as shit, but it's not a slow burn. We have a whole chunk of the book where they just don't like each other but think the other one is hot, and then in like 1 or 2 chapters the switch flips and they both are like, oh fuck, I'm in love. How did I not notice before?
I think it's
abrupt and makes no sense because these characters, they don't have fun banter, they just don't like each other and their personalities don't gel. The romance is not good.
In the beginning, it felt... I wrote this to you as well while I was reading the book. In the beginning, it felt like Nina's and Matthias' energy. Also with... what did I think I told you, it's like reading an alternative universe fan fiction of Matthias and Nina, because we have the witch and the witch hunter and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But after I finished this book, it's an insult to compare them
it's
to
like,
Nina
I was like,
and
I
Matthias.
feel like even Matthias deserves better than this.
Matthias deserves so much. And yeah, he died. But it's the romance. The romance is tough because if I remember correctly, they at one moment Reed decided that it was a fun idea to go to the theater. And she shows him where she used to live and blah, blah, blah. Then they go up on the roof. They bang in the coal on the roof.
Yeah, they fuck on a roof.
Like
in
animals.
winter. It's winter. This is right before Christmas.
Like, how did he maintain his... Anyway, they have sex on the roof, and after that, they're kind of... Then they're just in love, you know? They just basically had makeup sex. Suddenly they're like
so
a couple.
sudden. This is not a slow burn. You have like, it's ice cold, and then somebody accidentally sets up one of those like warning rescue flares that are super hot and that you're not supposed to like touch but like stick them where, and like it burns them to a crisp. They fuck. It's
crazy.
I'm gonna be honest, like, the emotionally loaded scenes, I didn't find them emotional the first time, and the second time I found them even stupider. Because after the reveal that Lou is a witch, Reed's comeback is, "You are not my wife," which is just not
factually
correct.
False.
Like, girl, why didn't you say something like, "I don't want you"? That had more impact than like, "You are not my wife." Like, girl, no, you are literally married. This is not a question of opinions. And Lou is super hurt by this, which I think also is like, it's so stupid. It's like, girl, you know he hates witches. This was not an unexpected response to finding out you're a witch.
It's really... Maybe... Because I think this is something that we're going to stumble over again and again when we continue discussing this. Maybe let's go over the plot holes. The points where we just... like, go. I think the first biggest plot hole for me was, why the fuck does she not put on that fucking ring as soon as she gets her grabby hands on it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I because I seriously thought I missed something along the way.
That's honestly like the thing with the ring is something that is indicative of something that Shelby keeps doing with her writing throughout the book. And it's like, so they steal the ring, they take it from the safe, and then Lou tries to escape the police and also the witch hunters who are at the house to arrest them, because, you know, crime is illegal. She has the ring, but she decides her best route of escape is to climb the house from the outside onto the roof, which, small digression, old houses who have roof access, there are stairs up there or a ladder. You can reach the roof of any old house from the inside. You don't need to climb the outside to get to the roof. I'm just in case anyone was wondering, there is no reason. She climbs up the house on the outside, even though she has an invisibility ring. And she only remembers this when she's on the roof and other people are also climbing the house from the outside. And then she puts it on. And the way it's written, it's like, oh, and then I remembered I had the ring, so I used it.
It's the thing you're here for.
But this happens several times. Later, she's also like, oh, I just remembered all of these guys are witch hunters and they hate witches. Or like, oh, I just remembered I still smelled like magic in a tower full of witch hunters. Oh, oopsie doopsie. This happens several times that she in her inner monologue, she's like, oh, I forgot, or I just remembered. And it makes Lou seem like the stupidest bitch on earth. This woman has no brain. The fact that she is not dead yet because she tripped and hit her head is a fucking miracle.
The second thing, right? She escapes from that mansion with the ring. She manages to like run. She comes back to the theater. She gets up the stairs, and because, you know, she's hurt, she's really tired, she falls asleep instantly. And then she wakes up and she needs to pee. And I literally wrote down so many fucking options where she could have peed, where she could have relieved her bladder.
She literally is like, I won't squat in the, like, in this room like a fucking animal. And it's like, girl,
you are.
What? First off, girl, you were covered in blood from yesterday. You look like shit. Why won't you just pee in the corner? You're a criminal. You're supposed to have come to the city with no money, with no nothing. Have you not slept on the street? You're squeamish about peeing? Really?
Not even, like, she could have... I mean, they fuck on that roof. She could have gotten up on that roof, peed on it, and the next time it rains, that pee is gone.
But also, like, the thing is, apparently, this theater, which has a lot of employees and is catering to rich people, does not have toilets for their staff. She goes to...
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
She goes downstairs to the toilets that are for guests of the theater. And, like, in the scene, she does the same thing I just mentioned. She wakes up and is like, oh, I forgot today was, I don't know, Saturday or whatever, the day where they have a morning show where I can't just go down and pee. And I'm like, you forgot? How dumb are you?
I mean, not even... I'm you know, she had a rough night. I'm gonna give her that. But to then say, all right, because it's a whole ordeal. They say she only has one entrance to her little nook on the in the theater, and it's over the roof. Meaning, she got out of that room over the roof, got down again, and then went into the theater. All of this just to pee. And the thing, because you see, or you notice that Shelby thought, okay, how can I make this convincing? Like, how can this convoluted situation really happen? And then Lou thinks, I'm not gonna use my ring because it's gonna be so suspicious when I bump into people on the way. she could have waited 20 minutes, half an hour until the play starts, because then nobody will be in that foyer.
She had to pee so badly. The best thing is she's
convoluted.
still wearing a blood-covered dress from the night before, and her excuse is, well, this is the only dress that looks like I could be a rich person. Never mind, I'm in the attic of a fucking theater that's full of props that I could be wearing. I'm not even gonna change my dress, I'm just gonna put a coat over it. It's fine. This is how coats work, apparently. You wear them indoors.
The thing is, she looked at the props, and I think there's like a line of, the only thing that could kind of fit was this moldy one. And I thought, if you're in the attic and there's like a moldy stuff there, just pee on that. You will never wear it. Just pee on the moldy coat.
I was just thinking, like, girl, this is a theater. Just dress in the most weird costume you can find. Yeah. Every guest will just assume it's part of the show and wonder, when will this fucking clown be in this, like, show that I'm going to watch? I don't remember this kind of character being in it.
And then by the end of the show, they will have already forgotten that they saw that clown walking around.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, it's an employee. I don't give a shit about poor people. I'm not gonna remember them. But the funniest part really is, like, she was like, oh, the foyer is gonna be too full of people. So when I'm invisible, it's gonna be suspicious when I bump into people. But, like, girl, if it's so full, they'll just assume somebody else bumped into them. Like, they'll just be like, wow, that bitch over there bumped into me and she didn't even apologize. Fuck you, Catherine.
The whole thing was so fucking convoluted.
And also, the thing is, she gets to the toilet. She gets to pee. Great. Lovely. Good.
Love it for her.
And then when she comes out, Reed is there because he left the show that is still currently playing, because I don't remember, because he hates the theater, I guess.
Yeah, something about it. He didn't like it.
Yeah. So, and he is somewhere behind her, and she recognizes his voice, and she's like, ooh, I knew it was stupid, but I turned around to look at him. And it's like, girl, why? You're you have mentioned before that you, are trying extremely hard to avoid both notice by witches and witch hunters, because both of them will kill you when they find you. 2, you're supposed to be a good thief, so you should be good at evading capture, and the first rule is to not show people your face when they will recognize you. So she turns around and he recognizes her, even though she was beat up really badly last night and her face is fairly unrecognizable. And he's only seen her not beat up because that happens after she gets away.
And he has only seen her, like,
from afar.
From afar, except for that one scene before the parade. But then she was, like, in a half disguise.
She was half disguised, and also he had better things to worry about. Like, right after he saw her, like, the royal family got attacked, and he had to try and kill witches, and almost got killed himself. So I feel like her face can't be that memorable, but apparently it is, and he immediately recognizes her, and she's so bad at running away for even a second, like, to get the ring into her mouth, because, like, who cares if he thinks you're a witch? At least he can't catch you like this. Mm-hmm. Like, who gives a shit? But no, they run through the theater, and then they stumble onto the stage, and this somehow and then people assume he just assaulted her, which the implication is that people assume it's sexual assault. It is literally assault. He has literally shoved her. This is called assault.
It's assault, man.
So he literally assaulted her. This is true. The audience is not wrong. But for some reason, this book assumes that an incredibly misogynist society would not take Reed's word for the fact that he was just chasing a criminal. I don't want to be mean to Shelby, but I don't know if you've ever, like, done any research or have ever even in your periphery perceived this topic, but police gets away with a shit ton. Especially, and like, if you're an extra special boy from the extra special police, everyone will take your word for the fact that this bitch who looks like she was just beat up is a fucking criminal. They will believe you. No, like, maybe there's gonna be, like, 1-2 people, and, like, there is one girl who's really, really mad about it, who then later turns out to be a witch, where it's like, okay, I believe that a witch would believe that a witch hunter is a sexist pig who sexually assaults women for funsies.
I mean, he
I
is.
believe that she believes that. I don't believe that the entire, like, audience is so convinced that the best boy police officer who just saved their king the day before is evil. Literally no one would believe this. Like, I'm sorry, like, it's sad because, like, they should, but no one would. No one would.
Yeah, it's, I mean, okay.
It is so stupid. Like, you could get, like, I don't know why this has to be so convoluted. There are way easier ways to force people into marriage. Like, you know? It would have made way more sense.
Without context, it sounds so funny. Like, there's so many easy ways to force people into marriage.
Top 10 ways to force strangers into
BuzzFeed
marriage.
list. Which way are you? Check this quiz now.
Hot tips to force strangers to get married on the spot. No, but, like, literally, like, I didn't even think about this for long, but literally, why is it so convoluted? It would be way easier if Lou had rented a room somewhere and had gone home to that room, and Reed had found out through criminals, I don't know, through the police where she lived, and then was there to search her room, and she was still in, like, her underwear, and he was there pinning her to the bed or something. And people noticed that in her home, and she could have been like, oh yeah, we've been together for forever, of course. And he's been like, no, I have not fucked this woman once. And she's like, oh, he's just denying it because he's too holy and because I'm too beneath him, but he promised to marry me and make me a good woman, you know? Like, then she, one, would have agency, and then it would make sense, because if both of them don't want to get married, it doesn't work. Also, like, why wasn't he in her home? She was, like, why does she live in a fucking theater? Why doesn't she live in a rented room?
Because she doesn't have any money or something.
But, like,
because she was low on it.
She says in the beginning with Coco, like, she talks about how these two other guys that they meet in the brothel are shitty thieves, and she and Coco are so much better at it. Why doesn't she rent a room?
I think it had to do, or it probably has to do with the whole, I have to hide and stuff. But I agree. Also, the thing is, she realizes that being a wife to a chasseur is one of the safest places she can be if she keeps, like, her magic down, because it's literally the fortress of the enemy of the witches. Yeah. Before any witch attempts to kidnap her from there, like, shit's got to hit the fan.
Yeah.
So that in itself, because at some point she realizes during the whole marriage process, she's like, wait, this is actually a good thing happening to me right now. The way you said it would have not only made Lou seem much smarter, but also more, like, conniving a little bit, because she's said to be that. She's said to be sneaky and, like, strategic, but she isn't.
Nothing works.
She's never that. And one thing, let's talk about Lou, okay? Because I have
Lou sucks. So I have many things to say about Lou.
I wrote down, because I thought I can't just shit on this. I always try to see something positive. I write down pros. Sometimes she is funny. I'm sorry. I chuckled when I read this book. There was this one scene where Reed blesses one brain cell. He's like, how can that woman be a witch? And she's like, well, when a witch and a man like each other very much, like, these are the moments where I genuinely sat there in a book that was like, sometimes she is funny.
It's like
but sometimes it's also creepy.
She has the funny best friend energy.
Yeah.
The like, oh, I'm like I'm one of the boys. I'm one
Yeah.
of the funny girls. I make off-color jokes. But the problem is, and this is also a huge issue with the whole book, is that she often... you get whiplash from her behavior.
Yeah.
There will be an incredibly, like, a scene that's meant to be tense and suspenseful, and then she starts cracking jokes, even though shortly before that she was worried about dying. And it's not explored as, like, a character trait that she tries to, like, paint over her own fears and insecurities and, like, her trauma with humor, even for herself. It's clearly just bad writing. This happens right in the first page. Like, this is not about Lou specifically, but about the tonal whiplash of the writing. The book starts pretty strong with a description of like a dead girl. Like it begins with like a description, like it's a little bit purple prose, but it works. It's fine. Of like, oh, they found this corpse and there's something haunting about it and stuff. And then immediately after, she's like, haha, there's a fat guy. Look how disgusting and hilarious it is that there's a fat guy at this brothel who's embarrassing. And then, for like a paragraph, and then we jump back to, oh yeah, murder. And like, corpses that witches have murdered. And it's like,
oh my god.
Girl, what the fuck is this? What? Like,
yeah.
It tells you everything you need to know about the book. It's just the tonal whiplash just fucking kills you. If you think a scene is serious, there will be a mention of Big Titty Lily very soon.
One of the another pro things, or I tried to think of strong moments that I genuinely liked in the book, or where I thought if this could have been like explored further, it would have just helped the characters so much, like in their development. And one of the scenes I personally liked, like this was one of the scenes where I felt like, oh, you know, we get to know a little bit about Lou and how she feels, is one of the most unimportant scenes in the book, which is where the witch from the theater gets burned. And Lou is like, has this inner monologue where she's like I ran away because I just didn't want to die. I was totally selfish. People are constantly dying because of this. I still don't want to die, but now I see this other witch, and she's burning, and she's like suffering, and she's being tortured. So I'm gonna take that pain, and like I'm gonna burn myself alive, basically. That was a scene where I thought, what is happening? Like, this was something that I would have liked to see more, not just with Lou, with Reed as well. And scenes like this were so like sparse that this is one of the few I can think of. Oh my god, we learned something. It's a useless, like in terms of the plot, it's a useless scene, and that makes me so furious.
The truly infuriating thing about this book, but especially about Lou, is that the ideas are not bad. Conceptually, Lou is a fucking amazing character. She should be an incredibly interesting, deep, morally torn character, because we know she grew up amongst witches. She was treated very well. She had very good relationships to everyone. Like, she said her mom spoiled her. She had a lot of friends who she was really, really close with. Like, they meant a lot to her, and she was willing to die for them because she was raised to be the sacrificial lamb, and she accepted that because she thought it was for a good thing. And then at the moment of her, like, where she should have died, she's terrified for her own life, which is an incredibly human thing to do. Like, good. She should be an amazing character. She runs away. She literally sacrifices her entire life she had back there, all her friends, all her relationships, to survive. Literally, the book mentions that her magic is based on basically like equal exchange. You trade something for another. Yeah. And she literally trades her metaphysical life of like relationships, the future she could have had, everything she's ever had for
family,
her real life. So she leaves everything, has no relationships left, and gets away with her life to then run to the capital and there start scrunging together an existence via crime. This should make her an interesting character. But she is not. She behaves like a girl in a fucking high school rom-com.
Yeah.
She does not behave like someone who went through incredible trauma, who has an incredible weight on her shoulders, who is terrified of being found out by anyone. Because if anyone finds out, she will either die by being burnt alive by the chasseur, or she will be murdered by people she cares about deeply so they can survive.
Yeah.
She should be interesting, but she's not, because she doesn't behave like these things happen to her. Like, she should, like, her identity should be a secret she locks away and doesn't tell anyone about. Why is she still using her real name? She's still using her real first name. The first thing you would change about yourself if you didn't want to be found. Why is she not dyeing her hair?
Yeah.
Why is she not wearing, like, wigs or intense makeup every time, like, she leaves the house? Why? Like, we know this guy, Bass, that is also a thief, who she works with. She told him she's a witch after they had sex in the afterglow, because, the sex was just so good. Even though in this world where witches get murdered, the moment anyone who can profit from selling her out finds out about it, she signed a hypothetical death warrant when she tells someone who is not also a witch. This is insane. The way she does not behave like the person she's supposed to be, and that makes her so fucking annoying. Every time she's careless or acts out, it's just like, you are so stupid. You're about to get murdered if anyone even thinks you're a witch. And still, she behaves in this pop feminist way where she's like, ugh, you and your dusty old patriarchy. Oh, women can also wear pants. They're much more comfortable. Oh, women can do everything men can do, maybe even better. Like, she behaves like this openly, which should immediately be a red flag to anyone who's a good Christian and who believes that only witches behave this way. It's insane.
Just the thought itself that she became a criminal, to me, was a bit weird, because if you don't want to be found out by the law or, like, attract attention in general, why would you go with the route of, like, crime? Why did she not, dye her hair, I don't know, gain a few pounds, just change her look, and then, I don't know, start to work at a bakery or something?
The weird part
Become
is,
an accountant.
Girl, why are you still in the country? Why haven't you left? It's insane to me. It's like later in the book, like near the end of the book, we get a mention of, like, oh, there was this, like, witch who left with, like, her husband to, like, a foreign country, and then one of her daughters got sick and died because she didn't have the magic connection, but, like, the mother who was a witch was fine and the other children were fine, so I assumed that she just got, like, a normal disease. Like, maybe she just died of consumption. They could have saved her with magic, but magic didn't work there. But, like, Lou already, like, didn't use magic while she was a criminal for fear of being found out, so why wouldn't she have gone somewhere where magic doesn't work, where no witch could find her via magic because it doesn't work? Why is she still there? We don't know. No, we know because she's dumb as shit, but, like,
and the
who
thing
in
is,
their right mind would stay?
I mean, I think in the book she's 17 or something, or 18. She hasn't, like, it didn't happen that much ago. She got sacrificed with 16, so you could go with the route of, I mean, she's a teenager, right? She's not gonna be a criminal mastermind. I mean, she's supposed to, but she's not gonna be a criminal mastermind.
Really good, but, like,
fleeing the country.
Thought.
But and that's where the good things end on my piece of paper.
Yeah.
One thing that bothered me a lot, and this is tied into the romance with Reed and the romantic opponent, so to speak, Cecilia or Celine, or what she's called,
Cecily
is the
something like that.
absolute pick-me energy that Lou exudes. She like the fact that this is a misogynistic society that Shelby wrote, and so we have a character who, whether she wants, like, we never find out whether this is just silly, she likes to live like this, or whether she has to do this because she is, you know, some form of royalty, some upper class. But she's pretty. She behaves like they want a woman
dainty,
of her age.
she's a lady, she's beautiful, she wears gowns, she wears jewelry, she's soft-spoken and polite.
She's cute. I agreed with Reed. I would have dated that. She such a cutie.
Yeah. She's clearly not a bad person, but the narrative wants so badly to make her look shitty. Which is so funny.
They have
because she has done nothing wrong.
There is this moment where they go to the I think it's just a normal ball. It's not like a masquerade or something.
I think honoring Reed and his special helping the king, because he's the specialist boy. And
he goes there, and Celie sees him for the first time in ages, and she drags him down to a little like garden thing behind the kitchen, and Lou overhears their conversation. And what because he just said, oh, the book tries to make her look so bad. In that scene, of course, on one side I was like rooting for Lou, and I thought, is Reed gonna be like, no, Lou doesn't mean anything to me, I don't love her, blah blah blah. But the way that they portray Celie is like, she has every right to be confused and to be sad and to be a certain amount of angry, to be like, listen, I know I told you I couldn't be with you, but that was because my sister just died.
Yeah, because I was grieving, and I thought the most important thing was to kill all witches, so you had to do your job, and I couldn't distract you.
Yeah, it wasn't that she didn't like him. It was she was grieving, and she said, listen, you have a job to do, and my titties can't distract you from that job, as beautiful as they are. And now I understand that you are married to this weird woman. I don't know everything about her. In Celie's eyes, that woman is a criminal. She doesn't know anything about her.
To everyone else, it looks like she's a fucking criminal who tricked Reed into marriage by like, which is like, why isn't this true? Like, the story would be way better if it was on purpose and not like, oh, I didn't even want to be married to him. We just happened to fall on the stage and everyone believed that he sexually assaulted me for no reason. Yeah.
And I mean, Celie doesn't believe it. She's like, no, come on.
You would never.
This is fucking bullshit. And then the book makes it seem like it wants you as the reader to go, oh my god, she's such a bitch. She's not.
She's such a man-stealing whore. What the fuck? But that was her boyfriend, and even though they, like, broke up, they, still send each other, like, romantic letters afterwards, but also, like, they didn't really emotionally break up. They were like, okay, we can't date anymore for, like, honor reasons, but not because we don't want to. So of course she's like upset, and I was like, you don't deserve this. We can annul this marriage if like, because of course you don't deserve this. And also, like, nobody cares anymore. Who would still care about this incident? Like, nobody. But it's I thought the whole marriage thing, at the beginning I thought, okay, whatever, means to an end, they are supposed to end up married, this is kind of stupid but also entertaining. But then when we get to the end of the book, and these family relations comes out, I thought, from when did the Archbishop know? Because, so, the way that the church, or that this organization is built, you have these chasseurs, and then you have their ringleader, who is the Archbishop, and he is the one who marries Lou and Reed, and he's like the big bad, next to her mother for the whole book. And then evil parents. I think like we have 200 pages left or something, and then suddenly people find out through the witches doing the concert that the Archbishop Yeah.
The
The witches reveal to smear the archbishop that he fucked La Dame de Sorcière, so the leader of the witches, and had a child with her. And Lou is that child.
Suddenly everybody realizes that they look eerily the same.
Yeah,
they have the same
so
eye color. They have the same freckles. They have the same hair. Basically, they look like she looks like a copy of him.
Which, how?
No, but also
he's like a middle-aged man. She's like 18. Like, even when children take after their parents, if the children are like the other sex, that also is like diminished, but also only becomes really obvious from like photographs where they, like, when you compare them at the same age, it doesn't, it's not quite as obvious when like one of them is an adult man and one of them is a teenager,
or if they
girl.
have very distinctive features.
But that's not described. Like, Lou is not described as having like very distinctive features.
You can totally look like your parent, your biological parent of the other sex. Totally. At least two people come to mind where I think you can see that they're related totally because of like face structure. But as you said, it's not described. And second of all, to come back to my thought, was this all like a big plan from the Archbishop? Did he see Lou stumble on the stage and he was like, fuck, that's my daughter. Let's better not get her killed?
The thing is, there is kind of setup for this because we know that the owner of the brothel went to the Archbishop right before they broke into the house and told him something, and then he sent his witch hunters there, and we find out she told him that his daughter would be there, and I assume he hoped that she wouldn't be the witch. And when Reed identified the girl as, oh, she was there, but she wasn't the witch, he's like, oh, jackpot, so that's my child, and it's not the witch? Because, like, oh, hair color and eye color fit, even though she's so beat up that we can't really recognize her features that well. And he's like, okay, the most logical reaction is to marry her to the man that I treat like my own son.
Which is also weird. It's
like, girl, why?
Yeah.
True. And then later we get the reveal that Reed is son of the owner of the brothel and the king. He is a prince.
That was it was so anticlimactic because
it was so fun.
At some point I did some, so maybe you can answer this for me. At some point I did some fast reading because I was like, I can't. So I went like all the pages.
I also did that the first time. I think I didn't read the last 20 pages.
And
probably the first time.
Lou finds out rather quickly, like she sees Madame Labelle and Reed standing there on the street because she was trying to tell Lou that her mother is coming, and she's like, wait, they look similar. I think these two redheads need to be related. So she kind of figures it out, and then at some point, I think it's while they are in the woods on their way to save Lou, Madame Labelle talks about, like, this kid, she had an affair with the king, and then she kind of, I think they took it away or something. Yeah, she was cast out.
She was best friends with Lou's mother, the Queen of the Witches, and when she told her she was pregnant from the king, who was like their enemy, Lou's mother took her child and also threw her out. And instead of like murdering the child, she apparently just threw that child in a dumpster for the bishop to find later, which is very funny.
To be fair, this is all hypothetically. If I were to throw a baby into a dumpster, a newborn, I wouldn't think that it's gonna survive for more than a day. because like, especially if you just throw the baby in there with no warmth or anything, they get cold so quickly. But yeah, thinking that this is one of the child of the arch enemies of Madame Le Saucier, she would have maybe gone the extra step and just killed the baby. I mean,
Either
killing
that,
children is not beneath her.
or given the baby to blood witches she gets along with to have, like, to curse the king through the baby because their blood is related. Something. Not throw the baby in a dumpster in an area that apparently gets frequented so often that someone would find it. Just throw that baby down the drain or something. Like, why keep it?
Leave it in the wood for the wolves to eat or something.
At least somebody benefits then. Like...
Give them a little snack.
The wolves are like, nice snack, thanks.
But the thing where my question is, like, is there a big moment where Reed is like, oh my god, that's my fucking mom, I'm a prince, what? Wait a second, what is going on? Because a couple pages later he's like, oh no, my mom, she's like, has a knife against her throat, whatever, I need to save me mom. And it's like, when did that happen? So I think I missed it. Yeah,
they they meet up for their secret Save Lou meeting at the brothel, and Coco's there, Rita's there, Ansel's there, and the prince is also there, who gets introduced earlier.
His name is Bo.
Which, like, I don't know why he's there or relevant, but I guess
because they fucked.
He really he thinks Coco's hot and wants to fuck her a lot, and Ansel is in love with Coco, even though okay, whatever.
He's a teenager.
And like in that conversation, Madame Lebel talks about her lost child. And like looks meaningfully and Reed realizes this, and then he's like super angry and like keeps being like, you're not my real mom, I don't want anything to do with you. And Madame Lebel keeps being like, oh, I'm gonna sit next to you and I'm gonna try to have a conversation, and Reed's just like, I hate you because you're a witch and also I don't like you. Which is just like, but okay, what is this for? I don't know.
But the thing is, I remember that part. And I still think it's anticlimactic. It's weird.
It's weird because Reed's like heritage was never a mystery and no one cared.
No one cared. It was a mystery, but no one cared.
Like, I don't know. It's like, oh yeah, he was an orphan who wasn't wanted. Yeah. Okay, that happens a lot. Like, yeah, around that, like, in some historical... Yeah, sometimes people don't want their kids. Sometimes they throw them out because they don't want them and they don't want to kill them.
They don't have money for it.
Yeah, they don't have the money, or they didn't want the child in the first place, but birth control is, like, difficult at that point in time. So they would feel bad about killing the kid outright because, like, that is pretty, like, emotionally taxing, murdering a child, like a baby. So they're just like, okay, let's just leave it in a dumpster somewhere. Like, nobody was like... You know what we need? Reed's parents. He doesn't know them and he doesn't care. He already has a parental figure who's important to him. He already has a brother figure who's important to him. We don't need a family for him. But then we get one because, God forbid, these characters aren't all connected in the dumbest web ever. God forbid.
And it added a very weird extra layer to this whole thing, because so the reason why the Madame Le Saucier wanted to sacrifice Lou was because of this. If she ends her own bloodline, the equivalent exchange thing, if she ends her own bloodline, the bloodline of the king will also be like
eradicated. Yeah, they'll all die.
Including all of his... My camera is...
bastard children. Because he's a whore who fucks around and has a lot of bastard children.
Including all of his bastard children. Which, again, I thought was a fun idea, because this or not fun idea, but it was like an interesting, nice idea, because the thing with bastard children, like going and wanting to... like claim their heritage, claim the throne, everything, that's a common theme in fantasy books. And to have this option of I'm just going to erase all of them, I thought was very interesting.
Yeah,
but
it's also morally interesting because, like, eradicating the royal family is, I'm sorry, but unequivocally good. Because royal families suck. There is no, like, I'm sorry, but, like, this relates to the elephant in the room in the book, but it doesn't quite fit here, so we're going to talk about it later.
Yeah.
But, like, it's not bad to kill the king. He sucks. We know he sucks. We know he's super into killing witches, and he hates them. Cool. We know he sucks. We know he's a slut. He doesn't care about his wife. Shitty person. It's totally valid to want to kill him, because he's responsible for the things happening in his country. However, it is much less morally defensible to kill his bastards who, in many cases, have no idea they're related to him, have no actual connection, have done, in many cases, nothing, like, to hurt witches particularly. So that would be morally interesting, but La Madame de Saucière has to be incredibly evil and cartoonish, so we don't get that. Like, it's not... Now it's just used to be like, oh, Reed will die if the ritual happens, which is pointless, because we already want the ritual not to happen, because it will kill Lou. So we already care. We don't need Reed to also die. This adds nothing to the story. It improves, it makes it worse. It makes it dumber.
That's what I was wanted to say, but like it doesn't add anything additionally to that, because we know Reed's POV. It doesn't add any danger to the situation itself, because he is trying to break into, like, witch headquarters. He is in danger anyways.
I mean,
and it does add a little bit of torment to Lou, because she's like, oh no, my haughty husband is gonna die too.
But does Lou even know? She's not there for the reveal.
She does know at one point.
Yeah, I think her
mother tells her.
At some point.
Yeah, she's like, oh, you know the.
So,
like,
which is like, okay, it adds some complications for Lou, but she was already conflicted about, like... The thing is, like, it is way more interesting for her to have a conflict between duty and, like, her own selfish interests, rather than duty and her romance. Because we know in romance stories, the romance will always be weighted heavier, even though that is stupid and Reed does not deserve it.
Totally agree.
It doesn't add anything. It makes the story less interesting, and it makes it stupider, because now everyone is somehow related. I do have to say... the whole, it will kill all the king's children did make me upset, because Bo is by far the funniest character, but that's only, he's my favorite because he's on screen extremely little, and he does very little except being a little bitch, which I love those guys.
He does undress and sing Big Titty Lady.
Wait, isn't that Ansel?
I thought it's Bo.
No, I think that was Ansel, because that was the payoff, you know, because Lou sings it to make him uncomfortable and confuse him, and then he uses it to confuse the witches so they don't kill him. I'm pretty sure it was Ansel.
I thought it was. I have the book.
I think Bo did almost nothing the entire book. He was pointless, but he does complain a lot about how shitty it is to trudge through the woods to save someone's life who he doesn't care about. And I was like, same, Bo. I also don't care. You know what? You're relatable. I think this is the reason why I'm confused is the witches surged forward, but Ansel rose up to meet them, a lone figure against hundreds. To my dismay, Bo followed him, but he didn't brandish a weapon. Instead, he chucked off his coats and boots, searching the crowd wildly. When his eyes landed on the plump witch from the hall, he pointed and bellowed, "Big titty lady." Oh, okay.
So I think this could be both.
Yeah, that's true. I read it as Ansel because it doesn't make sense for Bo, because he wasn't there when
here it says
sang
the wilder men tempered their rage as Bo slipped his shirt over his head and continued singing. So it is Bo singing it.
That is so weird. Why does he sing it? He doesn't have any That makes even less sense now. That does make less sense now. Also, like, as if like the witches who want to kill them are distracted by a guy stripping and singing a dumb song. Sure, I'll believe it. Whatever.
They are mostly confused for a max of like 5 seconds because there's suddenly a naked dude singing. Like that's the maximum amount I think that a witch would be distracted.
Just extremely stupid. The desperate inclusion of Big Titty Lily is fucking stupid every time it happens. It's just
One thing I also wanted to talk about is the magic system and the witches themselves. The magic system, I think, really cool. Yeah. I really like this thing with the golden threads and having to, for example, like break your fingers or give memories or something for the magic to work. But the thing is, maybe it's because Lou is so inexperienced. A lot of magic is very hard for her. And then you have these other witches who literally make people like fly in the air and crush their bones and everything. And that was the first thing, I think, just because Lou is inexperienced. But one thing that confused me so much was, on the one hand, Lou is like, witches aren't bad. Witches are just women who happen to be able to do magic. Like, they're not monsters or anything. But and you get to know a lot of women who happen to just be a witch on the side. But then on the other hand, you have these crone-like creatures who make people suffer to no end.
You have evil characters,
yeah, and that didn't connect for me. On the one hand, like, she grows up at the chateau, everyone is beautiful, they're all like, I don't know, raging lesbians, it's such a nice and like environment. Everybody loves each other. We're just witches on the side. We're being hunted for just being a witch. But on the other hand, they are literally mass murderers.
That didn't
connect for me.
This is a perfect segue into the elephant in the room that I really want to talk about.
Yes, please tell me.
I didn't notice this the first time I was reading it because I just wasn't paying attention. At some point, I just mentally checked out. But reading it the second time, it's very hard to unsee, and it's like, I don't think it was intended by Shelby, but this is the situation. Witches lived in a country, and we are told, historically, a neighboring country invaded them and took them over because men were jealous of them being able to do magic. That's the only explanation we get. And then we are told that the invaders, the imperial power that decided to take over their country, is systematically eradicating witches. This is literally genocide. Yeah. Literally, one of the parties in this conflict is literally perpetrating a genocide. And the book frames it literally as both sides are bad because one side is conducting a genocide, but the victims of the genocide, they're not reacting in the right way. They're too violent. They're not peaceful enough. The only good witches are the ones who are willing to assimilate into the hegemonic power. They don't use their magic. They live by their rules. They don't practice their customs. They assimilate to the patriarchy, but they get to be a little girl power now and again. Everyone who actively tries to dismantle and fight against the literal genocide going on are evil characters who are one-dimensional and only out to kill as many people, who are very willing to just kill civilians, torture them, disfigure them, anything. Because they're just angry. This reads
mind-boggling.
So badly. Like, if you look at this, like, I don't think it was intentional. I think she just thought, oh yeah, witch hunters and witches and both sides can be bad. But it's like, what you've written isn't that, though. You wrote literally one country taking over another. It's not colonization, because it's not a colony. It's just it's just imperialism.
It's invasion. Yeah.
It is literally eradicating the people who lived there before because you don't like them. but the people fighting against being genocided are too violent about it. And that's bad, and that's why they're the real villains. What we really need is people coming together with love and understanding. If only those people being genocided would be less violent, we could get together and talk about it. It's insane. It is fucking insane.
And the thing is, if I remember correctly, in the beginning they kind of assimilated because you had I forgot her name, the first witch basically who fell in love with the invader king prince, whoever he was.
I took this as like a story and not actual history because it was told in the same vein as like, oh, and then she cried so many tears that it made a whole lake. And I was like, okay, this is just a fairy tale about something that happened centuries ago. But the implication is that a witch fell in love with a guy from a neighboring country, and they were so happy until he got jealous of her magic and then wanted to steal it for himself, so he took over the country.
It's so weird.
Like, even if we take this seriously, like, this is why I laughed when you said she started with the world building, because the world building makes no sense. Imagine two countries, likely on a similar developmental stage because they're right next to each other and clearly interact. On a technological level, probably the same. One of those countries is filled with people who can do literal magic, and the other people can do nothing about it, because the only thing protecting them from magic is an actual magical artifact that they then split up and use as a defense. But this magical artifact that they have could only be split up into 100 items. They have 100 people who are immune to magic, and then they have a whole country full of witches and probably people who really want the witches to stay, because magic's really useful, and if you live together with them, you're used to having magic, and you're like, hey, I don't like being invaded, because that's not fun, and usually not good for anyone, and, like, war is generally bad for everyone involved, especially the civilian population. How did they win a war against people who can do magic when they could not do magic? This is stupid.
I also thought about when they said that the Madame Labelle mentions it at some point that they usually like didn't really care about male children, like their sons. They would be just like
which makes also no sense.
And I thought, like the thing you said, obviously these witches couldn't have just existed in the vacuum in that country. There had to be other, because at no point they mention, I mean, come on, it would be a fun idea, right? Like, I don't know, they're born out of the earth, they do some funky ritual, and then we have new witches. No, it's, the biological, getting pregnant, birthing children thing.
Magic
so
is hereditary.
Obviously, there needs to be some sperm. There need to be people who can, like, biologically create children, and that they just sat there and thought, these witches that we have loved for centuries and that we are really close to and bang on a casual, like, schedule are being hunted. Yeah, let's join them. Like, where's the pitchfork? It doesn't make any sense.
Also, just like from a general historical and sociological perspective, even if the witches existed in their own country with like no non-witches there, over time, a lot of non-witches would immigrate there and, like, just live among them. And why would the witches be mad about it? They'd be just like, oh yeah, cool, other people who we live with. And logically, when they can do magic that is obviously helpful in literally every way, because they can just do whatever they can think of, like, then this society would be very prosperous. And people who live there would have a lot of respect and like adoration for the witches living there, because they're improving their lives.
This is even in the book, and this was something that I was so confused by. When they go to the chateau, there's this big party because they're sacrificing Lou during the party, and it is literally like normal, expected. It's their way of getting into the chateau that people who are not witches roam the woods in hope to get picked up as a date. Like, people walk into those woods because they like the witches and their funky parties so much that
even
that they,
after centuries of anti-witch propaganda. So you can only imagine that before the invasion, this country must have been populated with a lot of people who are not witches, who really enjoyed their lifestyle and would have been really, really not fans of an invasion. But
so this was
all
even
the world
weirder.
building is nonsense surface level. None of it makes actual sense. So I just
and
also
like,
just
the witches themselves are like, oh my god, look, he's so hot, he's our hottie for the evening. Like, the witches aren't, oh my god, is this an evil human that wants to kill us? No, they're
just like, oh, a hot boy toy. Which of course, but also it seems like a weird assumption that a culture of witches would just throw away their sons. Like, even like, we know witchcraft is not all powerful and is relatively costly. You wouldn't just use it all the time for everyday stuff. So you would totally benefit from having men around who also do like work and like help you upkeep your living quarters. And then in all those centuries, no witches were like, no, I love my children, I cannot part with my children, I want to keep them. And the other witches would be like, yeah, okay, you can keep your son. One day one of our daughters is probably gonna bang him, it's fine. Like, yeah,
more little witch babies.
Why not keep children? Like, and also in that case, wouldn't, like, witches have been around implicitly for centuries, but probably millennia, since the inception of humans, since magic seems to be hereditary, so must have come from somewhere. And no one's ever noticed that some men also can do magic. It's just rarer.
I really thought,
like, wouldn't like men who live among witches or who are descended from witches be like, wouldn't these children, these boys, wouldn't they be super stoked to try and do magic because it's cool? Like, they would try. Most of them would fail, but some of them would probably succeed because clearly some men can do magic.
I mean, this is all speculation since we haven't read the other two books, so we don't know if there's some explanation for it later on. And in a way, it does kind of make sense if magic is less like obvious or less manifested in men, and if they really like abandoned every single son that they at some point had, that these children don't even know that they're descendants from witches. And like, you know, but with Reed, it happens in a very emotional, traumatic moment in his life that he sees this golden thread, and he's like, he has and this
he intuitively
inner urge
knows that it's magic and that it works.
He knows what to do. He doesn't have to practice this. It's a very like instinctive thing for him. Maybe it only happened at that point because he was so indoctrinated by the church. You know, he didn't even think that it could happen. There was some blockage in there, but he had so many other traumatic things happen in his life, and this is like a middle-age, you know, European fantasy world. You're not really telling me that none of these children, none of these sons ever had anything traumatic happen to him.
They were never in difficult positions where they were like, oh, if I don't do something, I might die. Or like someone I love might die. Dude, maybe one of them like had a pet that got badly hurt and was really worried about. Like, who knows?
Especially if they are all orphans. Yeah. There is like a base layer of trauma and suspicion that they will be met with from the society because they are an orphan. So it's like, it doesn't make any sense. That is, so the thing is, my library has all of these books. I don't have to buy them. Do I go out and read Blood and Honey? Do I read the third book?
I wouldn't.
Because the thing is, I always
don't care.
I always have hope. And it's this thing for me where I get stuck in my head and I can't get the thought out of like, okay, what happens? I played with the idea of just reading like very extensive summaries, because then I don't have to read like 500 pages, but just a very long blog post. But that is one of the things, because I really do wonder. When I read the book, I was genuinely surprised. I was like, oh, is he really? Oh, what? And I thought, okay, fun development. Finally some action in this book. But now I would really like to know where it goes, because it left so many open questions, and it's difficult.
From experience, I would say that you shouldn't get your hopes up too much, because often, in a lot of cases, the first book is the best because it's easy to set up questions and set up ideas than it is to deliver on them. It's why the beginning of the book is also still a little better than the ending, because like at the beginning you're like, okay, let's see where it goes, and when you see where it goes, you're like, oh no, this was headed off a cliff the entire time. That's why we were driving up the hill. Okay,
with full speed.
But I mean, if you really care, you could. I don't care enough. Like, I fucking hate this book. I think it sucks. I think it is like the epitome of what like is wrong with current YA fantasy publishing. Like, it's a poster child with lazy world building, mediocre to bad writing, flat characterization, bad plotting. Like, nothing about it is good. Some things are okay, and some things are really, really, really bad. There's like, I hate it, but I also don't care that much. Like, I will never want to read this again, but also I'm not gonna lose sleep over like implications from it, because I know the answers will be stupid, because every answer so far has been stupid. So
one thing, if we're at the end of the book right now, and like future installments and whatever, the cliffhanger, which wasn't really a cliffhanger, because you like this, the character's name is never mentioned in the book, so you actually have to go onto Google or whatever search engine you prefer, Google that name, and then find out, oh yeah, that was apparently a character like in mythology, real life, whatever. Who does that? Like, they said it.
It's such a Marvel after credit sequence thing. It's like
not even
they name drop someone you don't know about, and it's like it's framed in a way that you're supposed to be impressed, and it's like, I don't give a shit. Like,
it's not even a Marvel cutscene, after credit scene, because in the Marvel after credit scene you're like, oh my god, this is a. I mean, with the newer movies, they're running out of heroes, so they're pulling them from the weirdest but also funkiest comics that they are. But in the beginning it was like, oh my god, they just teasered Black Panther, or oh my god, Spider-Man, Deadpool, whatever, they're coming to the universe. This is like the equivalent to them teasing a Marvel hero that hasn't even been written yet. It's like,
I mean, no, it's like teasing an obscure Marvel like hero, because most people who watch Marvel movies have no idea what's happening in the comics. They don't know any character who's not major.
Okay, fine, but like, it was such a weird, because
it's such a stupid name drop as well, because it's like, it's literally in Coco's last name as well. Like, why am I supposed to be surprised?
I was so confused. Everyone was like, oh my god. And I thought,
also, this is another point where I'm like, this book also suffers from something that is very common in modern YA. It's every character needs to either be super important or related to someone super important. We can't have characters who are extraordinary on their own merits. This is why so many people are like, Six of Crows is such an extraordinarily good book. And it's like, Six of Crows is a good book? The only reason you all think it's extraordinary and revolutionary is because so much garbage is coming out of YA fantasy at the moment. Like, don't get me wrong. I like Six of Crows. I like the character. It's well written. It's a good book. It is not an outstandingly good book, though. It's a good book. It's really good. Very enjoyable. But it's not this extraordinary. You're just reading a lot of garbage. It's just, like, I'm sorry. This is like going to a restaurant that's, like, pretty good and being like, wow, this is the best food, because usually you just eat fast food from McDonald's and Burger King. It's like, sure, it's not, like, it's good. It is genuinely enjoyable, but it's not, you're hyping it too much. Yeah. You know what I mean?
One thing that So we talked a lot about the garbage in the characters and the way they're written, the story, the world building, everything. But one thing that I felt like fluctuated a lot over the book is the writing itself.
Yeah.
It's, and one of the pet peeves of mine while reading it was all of the, I'm so bad at grammar, the adverbs.
Yeah.
In it, especially the first 1 or 2 chapters. And I was primed a bit for it because at that time I had a lot of TikToks on Lightlark on my For You page.
Yeah.
So I was kind of looking out for adverbs, but at some point it got impossible to ignore them. And then they start getting less and less and less after the first couple of chapters. And then you have some amazing sentences in there. You have some amazing quotes where I thought, I like this. This feels like if the whole book was written like this, it'd be beautiful. But then the next sentence is the equivalent to a yolky thing. It's difficult, and at least with Sarah J. Maas, her writing is consistently funky. You're like you know what you're getting with a Maas book.
Yeah,
this
excessive mention of wings.
This book felt like a roller coaster in terms of writing. And I think that also made it very difficult to follow the plot or like have any investment into it. Because a lot of important scenes were just written so badly.
And there's just also a lot of small things that just annoy me. This is like about like some things are good in concept, but the execution of everything is so bad. Like one, like Madame Labelle, we've mentioned her a lot. She's the owner of a brothel. She, like, it is implied several times by her and by one of her employees that it's safer for women to work in a brothel than to steal. Which, no? Like, I'm sorry, but if you work in an extremely patriarchal society who hates women and looks at most women with suspicion because they could be witches, you cannot tell me that people would treat sex workers well, and acting like strong-arming women into sex work is like a good thing, and protecting them, it's like, I mean, the character's stupid, but I'm also like, I don't know if the author like thought about what she was writing. Then also, like, the Archbishop, also extremely stupid. Also, his name is Florin Cardinal Clement. His second, like, it's Cardinal.
I forgot his name.
Cardinal is in his name. This is stupid. Why? But also,
so
like,
I thought that might have been like a title. I don't know if it was like his name. But
he's the Archbishop. He's not a cardinal.
Isn't that also something from the church?
It is also it is a position in the church, but that's like being priest and bishop is also not the same thing. Sure, they both work in the church, and bishops can also give sermons, but there are differences. But also, like, why did he care about his child? It was a child he had with a witch. He fucking hates witches. It is, like, almost guaranteed that this child, if it's a girl, is a witch. Why would he care about her survival? He hates witches. He hates this woman for making him fuck a witch. He hates this woman for having a child with her and making him complicit in creating more witches. He would not protect this child. This is stupid. Like, but the same is also, like, Lou's mother. We're told that when Lou was a child, she was really nice and doting, but when we meet her, she's cartoonishly evil, especially towards Lou, which is insane. Like, we could have had a really cool, nuanced character here who's like, I love my child, and honestly, that would have made more sense because then the sacrifice is actually meaningful. Yeah. Because if she doesn't love her child, then ending her line doesn't mean that much to her. But she's just like a Machiavellian evildoer. She's just like, oh, I'll have a child so I can kill the king and his entire family. She doesn't like her. And she even says like, oh, you're also the Archbishop's child. How could I ever love you? Which is like, why are we doing this? What is the point? You're making the character worse.
Yeah. It could have been such a cool transformation for her mom to be like, I'm gonna get some kicks out of this. I'm gonna not only sacrifice just any child, I'm gonna get the Archbishop, I'm gonna kill his child. This is gonna be like an extra flavor of yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna hurt both the church by implicating that the Archbishop has fucked a witch and like tries to keep it a secret, and I'm also gonna destroy the royal family. 2 in 1.
Like
good.
Girl boss energy. And then over the time that Lou grows up, we could see her or get it somehow transported to us, the reader, that she changed during that time. Because it's her daughter. She does, as you said, she does dote on her. She does love her. And it would have made a very interesting switch if we still got this cold mother. So if we still have the conflict on her side and she's like, I love you to the end of the world, but number one, I really like the idea of killing my enemy's child, and number two, we just have to do this now.
Yeah, and it's like, it is war. Like, the only way for not more people to die is for you to die. Which is like, okay, there's a moral, like, conversation to be had here. It's interesting. This is a good moral question. But, like, I hate my child and I was gonna kill her anyway. It's not... There's no point. There's no conflict. This is uninteresting. This is boring. Especially
if she is so doting on her. Like, that was truly a bit jarring to me. And a bit... Just a bit weird. Like, it was just weird. Yeah. But
it
also
really
to come back, because I thought was kind of in my mind with the safest place is a brothel. In this misogynistic world, the safest place is the brothel? How? What? Wouldn't it also if Madame LaBelle went with like, she's not gonna be like a prostitute in this brothel, she's just gonna live here, because I mean, back in those times, it did happen a lot that the girls got pregnant. They had lots of children, and a lot of times, or sometimes, there was the option of not having their children be a prostitute too. They did have to do some work in the brothel, because like freeloading is an option.
A lot of work happens. Like, if it's a brothel, you need to do a lot of cleaning. You need to do upkeep. You need to like prepare food and stuff. At that time, there was way more work to do because almost no technology. Like, you had to do everything by hand. So like, there was more than enough work for people to do to not be sex workers.
But this thing of, I want to buy her to be a prostitute,
to protect
there would be
her.
Like, even more people would come into contact with Lou than they are when she's a criminal. Because they would literally like go in there every day, look at the wares, and think, I might fuck that.
Yeah, and they'd also be way closer to her, and like it would be way more likely that she might do magic when somebody does something like uncomfortable, or when somebody like tries to hurt her, because this is not uncommon in sex work. This is
on a like emotional plane. I can understand why Madame LaBelle wanted to keep her, because like, it's the daughter of her ex-best friend, and she wants to keep her safe, and she had to lose her child, and she kind of wants to take care of her, but that didn't really come through, I think.
But like, that's the thing though. Madame LaBelle is clearly very wealthy, and clearly she has connections. If she wanted to hide Lou, she could have easily. And I'm also like, why didn't she tell Lou she knew? She could have been like, hey, I know who you are, but I want to protect you because your mother hates me and also killed my child. And I want to keep you safe because I just don't want you to die because I'm not a terrible person. She has connections. She could have gotten her, like, a job as a housekeeper with someone wealthy. Like, servants were a huge chunk of, like, of the, like, servant jobs were extremely relevant in a time before a lot of household technology like developed to the degree it has now, because before dishwashers, before washing machines, you had to do all that shit by hand all the time, and it is a lot of work.
Even okay, so this is not very qualified information, but I've binged all of the seasons and all of the movies of Downton Abbey. And this is also touched on because this show literally goes over centuries.
Yeah.
And they have a huge amount of people in service even in like the 1930s, which feels like it's not that long ago. I mean, it's nearly like 100 years ago, but imagine how many people in service were there back then.
Before that. But that also reminds me, like, the time period is not specified in any way. There is hilariously one line that I just could not get over that mentions that the people were packed as closely as sardines in a tin. You know when tins came in fashion?
Very late.
During the fucking Industrial Revolution, when we had a surplus of metal and metalwork and things being produced en masse. That's when these things, like, became common.
Yeah.
Clearly, this world did not have an Industrial Revolution, but also the level of comfort is strange for a country pre-Industrial Revolution. Like, there are nice bakeries, there are nice clothing shops, and, like, nothing there is, like, super expensive. Like, which is, like, I don't, like, this is when you get your information from, like, romance books about periods. It's like, yeah, you should, if you want to write historical fantasy that literally includes Christianity, so it's at least somewhat close in development to our world, you should pick a time period and do some research so we get any kind of idea. Because, for example, during the ball, the dresses they're wearing, the way they're described, they're extremely modern. It's like skin-tight fabric and open-backed gowns, and it's insane shit. It's like, no, why? I thought this was historical. What is this?
It does feel like she decided to go for something medieval, but on the side she kind of slid away into something that's more closer to Renaissance. But then she went with, I want that French absolutism aesthetic for the royals and for a lot of other things. And then she just mushed so many different eras together that in the end it just feels vaguely,
it's just Pinterest board fantasy. It's like she saw a bunch of pins she liked, and that's what she based her world on, and she did no research or thought about how things work. Because that's another thing that I can't get over. In the physical books, there's a map, right? And on that map we have,
there's a map?
At least in mine, at the beginning there's a map.
I don't think I have
There's
a map.
of Belterra, and it shows that there's literally only one city. There's not just one city, but there's like one big city, which is the capital, and there's like 4 small like villages, tiny cities. But also the map of the capital is hilarious, because the capital on this map consists of the circus, then that one park that's next to the house they're robbing, the cathedral, the castle where the king lives, and also a graveyard and a bakery.
I didn't know there was a map. I just Googled it.
The map is hilarious because it also shows us that like Belterra has like the other cities are never mentioned. Like, it only plays in the capital, and from the description, the capital's tiny, and they travel to the castle, which is on the other, like, the capital is on the south tip of the peninsula, and the witch castle is at the northernmost tip. And they travel there by horse, but also on foot in a matter of a few days. This is a tiny island. This is a tiny island with like a population of what? 20,000? This is tiny. This society would not work. What is this? This is hilarious. It's just there's so much wrong with this book. Like, it is bad on every level. The more you think about it, the worse it gets. It's just, oh man. Also, just the fake French is killing me. There's just...
To be honest, I thought it was going to be worse because you said that it's everywhere in the book. And I mean, it's mainly in the names, and like in the beginning, she sometimes says something like "oui" or "merde," but nothing.
Yeah, that is super nice. That tapers out because she forgot about it. But like with the names, what's especially annoying is like one, read-diggory, but then also the balisarda, which is not a French word, which is Spanish. The French word is balisarde with an E at the end, which also sounds more French. French words usually don't end in an E. Same with the name of the country, Belterra, when it would be Belterre if it was French.
I thought that too. I thought it was so weird.
There are several moments where it's just like, this isn't even French. You're using the French as a surface level aesthetic and you're not even doing it right. What are you... Like, I mean, read-diggory is obviously the worst offender, but the other things are like, why are you doing this? Why are you using the French if you're not gonna use it? Like, if you're going to use it, commit to the bit, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree. It was... I really thought it was going to be worse. And when I started the book, I did think it was going to be bad because... You know, she tapers off in the end.
I am glad she, like, dropped the French, like, random French exclamation, like, after the beginning, because it really doesn't add anything. I feel like this happens when people who only speak, like, English try to write about other languages. Because they feel like, oh, when I speak to someone in English who's from a different country, they sometimes say stuff in that other language. So if I'm gonna write about French people, they should also randomly say French stuff. But, like, no. If you are reading an English book about French people in a French country, you are assuming they constantly speak French and you're reading a translation. No one should say random French shit in that translation, except if it's a name or, like, an untranslatable word that you need in there for some reason. Which I don't know in what case that would be, but who knows? Maybe that could be the case. The funniest part is, like, there are these French names for, like, places, like, what was it? L'eau mélancolique, which is the lake. The lake that the witch supposedly cried. But then immediately afterwards, they give you the translation, which is the melancholic waters. No, it's like the... What's it?
Melancholic lake, I think they say.
No, like, it's l'eau mélancolique, but I think the English translation was an alliteration. I don't remember it, but it was like... Wistful waters it was, which yes. Wistful and melancholic. It's like, okay, I guess it's like a good enough translation. But why use the French names at all if you need people to know the meaning? Why is it even there? Yeah. Then you can just use a translation. The same with like La Forêt des Yeux. Why does the forest have eyes? Does it matter? No, it never comes up. It means nothing. It's just there for the aesthetic.
Yeah.
Also, the baker's name is Pan, which is, again...
Isn't that just bread?
Haha, it is the Spanish spelling for bread because the French spelling has an I in there. It's pain. P-A-I-N would be in French. So he's a baker and he's named Bread with his first name. His first name is Bread, but it's Spanish bread. Insane. Fucking
I mean, he
stupid.
is in Belterra. I think this is one of the instances where she probably saw that one video. Oh no, that's the with a baguette in Harry Potter. But I think at some point she just heard somebody say that means bread in French. And she thought it would be either... Okay, there's two options. Either she thought it would be too on the nose to call the baker bread in French. And she was like, I'm just gonna ignore one of the letters and it's gonna be fine. Or... she didn't look up how to write bread in French and thought that's the way it's written.
Also, but, like, why is his name Bread at all? Like, just use one of the super common French names. Why isn't he Jean or Pierre or Jacques? Why doesn't he have, like, a typical French name? So you know he's French.
I don't get it either. I really don't get it.
It's just so bad.
I think what frustrates me in general with this book, and I mean, this is something that happens in a lot of YA books, or not just books, and a lot of media where you think, come on, you were so close, is that the main premise is so interesting and it's so fun, but then at certain points it feels like oh my god, this would be so funny as fan service, or oh my god, this would be so funny in an AU, or oh my god, it would be so funny in general. This kind of took over. Yeah. And in the end, there wasn't enough time for the plot. Because, I mean, I don't have to tell you anything about original characters and having alternative universes and just coming up with more and more ideas. Yeah. And then just, in the end, you have one character that exists in 20 different versions. Yeah. But the thing is, you have to edit that down so it makes sense in at least just one universe. Yeah,
here's the thing.
And
also,
I feel like that...
That's also why you have an editor who should point out to you that a lot of it is not great and that you should put some more work in. Like, it's just, the plot is weirdly convoluted, and in theory, a lot happens, but a lot of the things that happen are not meaningful. Like, there's like, why are they randomly go to a fucking Christmas market? Like,
I did get some, like, I'm a Christmas child. At that moment I thought, dang, I want to go to a Christmas market.
But like, what is this doing in a story about a witch who's running for her life, trying to hide who she is, married to a man who might kill her the moment he finds out about who she really is as a person? Why is this in here?
I felt like the Christmas market was one of those instances that we talked before where the plot happens to her. They go to a Christmas market because I think she's like, oh, no, it isn't even explained. They're just at the Christmas market. And then they have this cute little thing of like, oh, we buy each other presents, blah, blah. And then she like goes away because at first I thought this was one of her, oh, I need to be alone. I need to get rid of Reed and do something criminal, she just buys him a present. Something smart, but she really just wants to buy him a present, and it's just so that she gets ambushed and loses the ring because she fucks up, like she doesn't get to put it into her mouth because she fumbles too much and then it falls down,
which great, love that. But like that, honestly, in that short time period a lot happens. First, they go to the fucking market because Lou wants to eat something from there, because Lou is obsessed with like baked goods, which is just like, okay, it's one of those, haha, I'm quirky, not like other girls, look how much I can eat. Look how much I eat. Fat. Unlike those other girls who are so concerned about their figure in a time where food is scarce and being plump is extremely attractive because it means you can afford food and it's healthy, But no, regardless, they go there. Then they have like these moments that are supposed to be romantic but are not because I don't care about them and their relationship just doesn't work. And then she goes to buy him a present. And she goes to a blacksmith, I think.
She wants to buy him a dagger.
Yeah, a dagger she saw. And like, in the conversation with the blacksmith, it turns out because she mentioned some petty criminals to like the witch hunters, they are now combing the underworld and hunting down random criminals, even though there's only 100 witch hunters and they have better things to do. Also, the criminal underworld is tiny. Like, there's like 10 people involved and they all know each other, I guess.
The thing is, they only go after them because there's one point where they talk about her scars and everything, and she's like,
before they met. Yeah, these two criminals, they're so stupid. We meet them first in the brothel when they are overhearing like where the magical ring is. And they immediately recognize Lou, even though she's in disguise. She sucks so badly. And she says they're stupid, and they still recognize her because she's also dumber than a brick. So,
oh man,
that's where they first appear. Then, after she stole the ring, they randomly find her in an alley where they could not have known she would be.
Yes.
Because it's a random ass alley. So the capital is like 5 streets, I assume. That's how they find her. And then they beat her up because they want the ring, and she like fights them because she's so cool, and she gets away. They're all injured. Okay, whatever. And then later she tells Reed about how they've like hurt her, and he is like, wow, no one hurts my wife except me. So he's like, well, we gotta find him and kill him now. No, we gotta bring them to justice. So he sends witch hunters to hunt down random criminals. Great. And
don't they have a police?
The whole underworld gets like, the criminal underworld gets like shaken up by this, and people get arrested, and somehow they all find out that this is because Lou told her husband about these 2 guys who beat her up one time. And then when she's at the Smith trying to buy a Christmas present for Reed, apparently these thugs knew where she would be because they are also there, and the Smith locks her in a room with them, and then they try to kill her. And she...
That's so stupid.
Kills one of them? Does she kill both of them? Reed comes in at some point. I don't know exactly what happens, but like at least one of them is there, and his blood is all over the floor. And when Reed is there and she's so relieved, they make out and almost fuck there in the blood of one of the dead guys. They almost fuck after she was almost murdered while the corpses are lying around there. It's fucking like deranged.
She literally only like realizes that she's there because she has this white coat, and she's like, oh no, I got blood on my coat. And then she's like,
oh no, I'm soaked in blood. I forgot I just killed a man. I was about to fuck here.
But Reed has no excuse. I mean, she wears the coat. She's in shock. She's like, oh my god, what happened? She doesn't immediately notice there's blood on it. Reed literally barged in. Like, I think he killed one of them and she killed the other.
He is great at barging in. That's like his main job.
I think he bashed his head in or something. But he basically did that. He looks at his wife, love interest, covered in blood, and he thinks, fuck, like, I gotta fuck that.
This is like the dollar store version of like, we fucked and outside we could hear the screams of the dying, you know?
I mean, at least they had the decency to do it in
No wonder
the
Sarah J.
tent.
Maas was into this.
That's why Sarah J. Maas wrote a sparkling and fully realized heroine, an intricate and deadly system of magic, and a searing romance that kept me reading long into the night.
Also, one thing that really bothered me, that also happened in that conversation with the Smith, like, he talks pejoratively about Reed and like the other witch hunters and stuff, and she gets defensive, not just of Reed, but of witch hunters in general, which is insane. Like, that dick can't be that good. Like, girl, these people will kill you. They kill innocent people all the time. That's their one job, to commit genocide. And you're like, well, they're not that bad because one of them is good in bed and also hot. That's fine.
And also, he's a virgin. Like, not to say that you can't have luck on the first time, but
I guess, like, he just has a really big dick, and that's all it takes. I don't know. Lou hasn't had much sex either, okay? She had, like, sex with Bass, and that was it, I think. So, like...
yeah. I feel bamboozled. I feel confused.
But this also reminds me, just since we're talking about them again, like, something about their romance which put me off personally. Like, obviously this is a taste thing, but the combination of factors is really off-putting to me. Like, one, we keep having described how much taller Reed is, how tall and muscular and dangerous he is, repeatedly. And what we are also shown, which not in the same scenes, but which is treated as funny often, that he has incredible anger issues, that he gets physically destructive with property. When he's mad at her, he has to physically restrain himself from hurting her when she upsets him, especially at the beginning. And it's like, girl, this is the reddest of flags. These are all the behaviors you can, like, that predict spousal abuse. Like, the best predictor of that is, like, also previous, like, physical violence against women, which, like, that's his job. And also he already physically attacked her as well. It's like, I don't find it cute when she's barricaded in the bathroom and he punches through the door. That's my God, not that cute. Scene. That's not funny. That is fucking scary. Like, it would be scary if these characters weren't so obviously flat characters and I was not immersed at all in the story. But just imagining that is scary as shit. If you're stuck in a... Like, he then, like, after she does one thing he doesn't like, goes out without telling him, he basically locks her in the tower and has her supervised the entire time. This is abuse. Like, this isn't fun. Like, we know she can do magic. He doesn't know that. And she can't do magic without getting murdered right afterwards. Because she's a witch. And she will be murdered for this.
The thing that I thought was a bit scary, or just when I read it, I just thought this is in no way like true relation to each other. Like it doesn't it's such an overreaction. Is he punches in the door because she reads like the letters, or she has the book in her hand, his diary or what it was. That is the reason why he decides to like punch through the door. The thing is, by that time, she has read it. There is no... Yeah,
she has already read it. She's just reading it out loud. He can't keep her from reading it.
Yeah. He punches through the door, and it's written in a way where it's like, haha, as you said, it's played off as a joke.
And Lou thinks it's funny, where it's like, girl, you're locked in a small room with the violent man who...
She's locked in the bathroom, even. Yeah, like, there's nowhere to go.
It's a tiny room. He could kill you. You can't do magic to defend yourself. Your fingers are still broken. You were, like, more than a head smaller than him. You were tiny and breakable. This is, like, a man who is trained to murder, who has so little control of his temper that he just destroyed a door just to shut you up.
He punched through it. He had his whole arm in there. And the thing that Reed in general, at first I thought this is going to be interesting, and then I thought he seems like he's the only one between them who has a brain cell.
He does not.
And quickly I realized that the only brain cell he has is what the Archbishop tells him to do. Because at least the Archbishop has, like, a couple... I mean, I'm going to give it to the Archbishop.
They do bad work, but they are there.
Yes. They do exist. The neurons are there. The thing that also bothered me about Reed is the total flip he does throughout. In the beginning, he has... It's clear what his character is. He's very devout to his work. He is... or he has trouble with his emotions in general. There's some scenes where he is, like, aroused or he feels attraction. and he's totally confused by it. That one scene where he defends the king from the witches, or from the witch, and she's like a beautiful woman, and he has this.
And then he gets
this is a witch.
scared when he notices she's pregnant.
So but weird. She's also so fucking hot. Why do I have a pregnancy kink? Like
that one was so strange.
And he has the anger issues where he has to count down. It's a thing that the Archbishop knows about. He's like, remember, deep breaths, remember, calm down. And then I think it's after he actively decides to love Lou or something, he gets so quirky and flirty for like a couple pages.
Yeah.
The situation where he's like, you know what? No, I'm gonna sleep on this bed. It's like, did she just what? He completely changed, and after that he was randomly. Just blank.
Yeah, he flips randomly. Like then he just becomes like a fun, lovey-dovey banter guy that she has like fun banter with. But like I understand that like the basic concept was supposed to be that he is sheltered and he is like disconnected from his emotions, and he hasn't really had that much contact with the real world. He's very Christian, he's very devout, and that is him. He's the sheltered virgin boy who is also violent and dangerous. Okay. But like, and she's supposed to be, which like some people think that's cool. Like I also like that in a fictional man, although I don't like the weird like I'm a sheltered little boy and I don't know how women work. But Lou is supposed to be like the whole opposite attract. She's supposed to be worldly and experienced, and she's like bawdy and makes jokes that are off color and like sexual, and that's supposed to play off each other. It doesn't really work though, because Lou is not worldly. She is also extremely sheltered, even though she has like lived on the streets and in a criminal milieu for like 2 years now. But she only had like sex with this one guy who she also had like a romantic relationship with, and she's mad that he's not the protective guy she thought he was. He's like out for himself, which is valid, but so she has moments where she's like this, but it's just bravado. She's not actually like this.
Yeah.
She's deep down, she's actually just a good girl who needs a strong man to protect her sometimes. But she's also not like other girls and can defend herself because she's cool. And did I mention she's not like other girls? Like, just her like. The dynamic doesn't work because neither of them fits their dynamic well, and depending on what a scene demands, they are different people, and that's just kind of it makes the like supposed slow burn not work, because at the beginning when they're fighting and having fun in quotation marks banter, they're just fighting. It is funny to read about two characters being catty to each other. Like, sure, it's funny to read. But there is no romantic chemistry. Like, you can't just intersperse, like, people genuinely disliking each other with them thinking about how hot the other is. That's not romantic tension. That's just people, like, feeling physical attraction while not liking the other person. Which is, like, But I guess for a lot of people that works. I'm too, like, ace for this, but okay, I guess.
In the beginning, there's a scene during the marriage, during the wedding, basically. I mean, it's not a wedding, but during the vows, where I thought this was gonna go somewhere very interesting, because it's from Reed's perspective, and he's like, I can't do this. You can't I can't marry this woman. You can't do this to me. And then she like grabs his hand and she looks at him and he looks at her and he realizes all of this pain and confusion for a life I'm not gonna have now that I feel, this woman feels as well. And they have this very short moment of a connection. He's like, okay, well, fuck. And I thought, oh, that's a fun notion. That's something you can actually build a relationship on. This situation of, okay, we're both in this weird moment, but it immediately goes away again when they go to the tower and he's like, all right, wife, this is your room, bye.
But the weird thing is that the dynamic also doesn't work because, like, at the beginning he is trying, not greatly, but, like, he is trying, especially right after the ceremony. He's like, hey, yeah, this is where I live. Like, this is just where I live. I know from your perspective it's not much and stuff. And at the beginning, she is so antagonistic, which ruins the whole thing, where it's like, girl, you're supposed to want this marriage. You are supposed to at least act like not witch. You're not supposed to be, like, super antagonistic and, like, make people suspicious. Why are you being so obviously antagonistic? It doesn't work. It helps you. Like, it doesn't help you. You get nothing out of this. If you were smart, you'd try to wrap this man around your finger. You know he's, like, barely experienced. You know this. Why are you using it? Yeah,
so it would be very easy.
Like, he's clearly trying to be nice. So even if you don't like him, at least be polite. Use it. Like, how dumb do you have to be?
If we had just her POV, it would have been so interesting.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we get more of her thoughts. That would be one thing. But it would be so interesting for her to go this sneaky way of saying, this guy is so easy to manipulate. I am LaRue. I'm from the street. Like, I can make this man genuinely care for me, genuinely love me. Because there is no reason why I should be nice to him. He literally wants to kill me if he knew that I was a witch. And then have her fall in love with him. And then have that conflict of, shit, now I really don't know. Does he love me? Is this like a thing? That would have been so much more interesting. And what you said immediately, like, we're supposed to think, oh, she's realizing this is a good thing for her. We're realizing she's smart. It immediately gets thrown overboard when she gets there and she tries to escape.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
So she didn't understand? Yeah. What are you trying to tell me here?
She keeps flip-flopping, and then at a later point she's again like, oh, and I remembered that actually this was good for me. But it's like, girl, I think you might have memory issues the way this is.
She has a memory of a goldfish.
Yeah, it's truly, truly incompetent. It's just...
I know that writing characters is very difficult. Having them be consistent, you know, like... have them, you have this idea, you have this vibe, especially nowadays where you go off of Pinterest boards and you kind of put together characters from ideas from other characters and stuff. I know it's difficult to then tie that all together into a coherent picture, but Lou really feels like a Pinterest board to me.
I feel like Lou reads like the protagonist from one of those, like, high school drama rom-com movies, you know? Like, she feels like a Mean Girls protagonist who, she doesn't take these things, like, supposedly her life is on the line and supposedly she's escaped being ritually murdered, but she doesn't behave like it. She interacts with Reed like he's just kind of annoying when she lives in a world where he literally owns her because they are married and he could do anything to her that he chose. She doesn't know this man. All she knows of him is that he has been physically violent to her before, that he hates people like her because he also talks about criminals the way, like, in a way that's clearly not positive. Like, he's clearly disgusted by her. The way she behaves is deranged. We're supposed to think like she's super invested in her survival, but she does not act like it ever.
That girl has a death wish, basically.
She's just too dumb to be alive, really. The thing really is, like, she has this truly, truly interesting backstory that should make her an incredible character. But she's not that character. At some point, like, Louise LeBlanc was murdered by a sassy sorority girl that put on her skin and took her name and backstory with her, but, like, whoever she was supposed to be is like somewhere in the woods.
Yeah. She didn't just trade her life, she basically traded her whole personality.
She was just like, you know what? Not gonna change my name, but I'm gonna behave like an insane person while I'm at it. Also, what also bothered me, like, the whole thing, like, I understand that people, like, I mean, I don't understand because you ought to do research when you're trying to write something that is at least vaguely historical, but at a time and in a country that is so deeply Christian and what I assume is Catholic from the vibes it gives off.
Yeah.
It gives off the Catholic vibes. It's not Protestant. Why the fuck do people think that criminals are heathens? Criminals are also religious. Like, people don't start becoming criminals because they're not religious enough, and religious authorities also didn't assume, like, that thieves weren't religious. At this point in time, everyone is baptized. Everyone is religious. The only people who are heathens would be the witches who don't get baptized and who are considered like demons and not real people, who are considered soulless, like evildoers. No one would assume she's not baptized or not Christian, but then she just goes out and says, oh, I'm not Christian, oh, I don't believe in your silly religion, at a time when that would get you murdered immediately. It's like, I understand that you live in a time where people are more laissez-faire about religion, but I promise you, in a deeply religious European country, somewhere between Middle Ages and Renaissance, if you were openly like, I don't believe in God or your silly ideas, and those people thought witches were real and were heathens, and you are a woman, you would be on the stake immediately. Immediately.
That was also a thing that I was confused about. That they immediately think that Lou can't be the witch. Immediately.
Yes, like, really funny.
For some reason, they first think it's only one witch that broke into the house, and second, Reed at some point thinks, she didn't smell like magic. Maybe she did the magic a couple of hours ago. Maybe that day,
you didn't sniff her properly and she just came out of a bakery and that's why she smelled like cinnamon.
What? And then, like, this woman is just conveniently, even though she's not a witch, friends with a witch that trusts her completely. Like, I don't know. And then she comes along and she's like, oh, I'm a heathen. I'm not, like, I hate everything you do. And you not once think, like, just from I'm an elite investigator superhuman. Not once do they think,
captain of the witch
maybe
hunters.
She's also a witch.
Yeah, wouldn't the first thought... But also, like, there's this scene where the other witch hunter, Jean-Luc, is, like, uses witch as, like, an insult toward her, which no one would do in a world where the word witch is that stigmatized. You wouldn't use it as a casual insult, but also he
uses it as like a jokey insult.
She paused and didn't laugh at the insult, even though we were having funny banter because I called her a witch. It's like, ooh, that's suspicious. It's like, girl, no, it's not suspicious. It's an incredibly dangerous thing to call a woman. Like, it's just like, girl, no, no one would be like, you're such a witch, as like, oh, you're so annoying, or whatever, or like, you're such a heathen, you're so badly behaved and not womanly, what a witch. And it's like, no one would say this, not when witch is a tangible thing that you get murdered for being accused of.
I could imagine that, like, common folk would say that, but not the super religious, like, Vatican police.
This is
not them.
There's also just, like, Jean-Luc as a character.
Damn.
He could be so good. The weird thing is, like, from the setup, a lot of characters have a lot of promise, and Jean-Luc could be so good. He was, like, we get Jean-Luc set up as, like, he and Reed grew up together, but now he's jealous of Reed, so they don't really get along anymore.
Yeah.
But that sucks. It's bad characterization. It's uninteresting. Because the real tension would come from, like, Reed is already, as a character, thematically torn between the church, his past where he grew up, and his future, which is Lou and witches. And, like, yeah, sure, he has the Archbishop, but that's not quite a very personal relationship. And it's like, that's like his father figure. It's different. That's his boss and his father figure. It's like, it's distant, but like he cares about his opinion and approval. But Jean-Luc would be the perfect counterweight to Lou. Like, they would be perfect counterparts because he and Reed grew up together. They should be close. They should get on. He is a reminder for Reed, for everything he should stand for, what is important to him, what matters to him in his past. They should be close, and like Jean-Luc's suspicion or dislike of Lou should be a reason that like drives them apart a little, and there should be conflict between them over the fact that it turns out that Lou is a witch. There should be a fight, and he should have to choose between his best friend / brother figure and his wife, who he's in love with. It's a romance, we know he chooses his wife, but there should be tension.
The tension should be there.
But the tension is not there because Jean-Luc is so jealous that he's just a huge cunt. All the time.
Yeah.
He's just so cunty to Reed, it's ridiculous. He uses every opportunity to needle him and like insult him covertly, where it's like, you can't really call him out on it without seeming petty, but it's clear that he's being a dick. So it doesn't work. We don't feel anything about their relationship. We're just like, why the fuck does Reed even still like him if he's so unlikable all the time?
I also thought, I expected Jean-Luc to be I thought, okay, he's like the smarter one, he's the detective one, he's the one who's actually what you think a chasseur is.
Yeah.
He's like, he zeroes in on things and he tries to find them out. And it would have been super interesting if he found out that Lou is a witch. Or he had these suspicions, and he would, instead of going guns blazing trying to kill her, he would have first gone to Reed and be like,
also try to manipulate the situation to reveal to Reed that she's a witch. The whole thing is just like, Jean-Luc is kind of a dishonest person. He's clearly not above manipulation. He's kind of an asshole, which makes him the perfect like foil for Lou. They should both be manipulating Reed while actually caring for him. And he should be upset with both for trying to manipulate him. Like, this could be such a good back and forth. But no, we don't get that. The book is just, it has no subtlety. We cannot have a character who both cares, like, we can't have a character who does bad things and is still, like, an interesting person. We have obvious antagonists and we have obvious protagonists. Lou is obviously a protagonist, Reed is obviously a protagonist, so his anger issues and his violence and like his previous murders are like, it's okay. He's a good boy deep down. He just needs to know that what he's doing is not as moral as he thought. Coco is a good person. She doesn't do anything bad, even though her encouraging a 16-year-old when she's like 19, 20 is like a little bit weird, but
it was weird.
It's like whatever. I'm not like, I don't think an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old is particularly weird, especially if they're both kind of adults anyway in a world where everyone grows up earlier. But it is like, it's just weird. It comes out of nowhere. It's the setup. Like, Ansel just thinks she's hot, and for some reason she likes him, even though he's a bumbling fool and extremely childish. So it just doesn't fit. But like, and then we have obvious antagonists. Jean-Luc is obviously an antagonist and a dick. The Archbishop, obviously an antagonist and a dick. Lou's mother, obviously an antagonist and a terrible person. A caricature like of an evil woman. Like the thugs that beat her up in an alley, obviously evil. Like, it's just,
I would have really liked to see more of Jean-Luc. And one thing that I thought was weird, and I just thought, I mean, come on, it's world building, but maybe like I'd like to hear your opinion on it, is the way that the chasseurs are chosen. Because as I understood it, I thought, what's the logic behind it? I think they have a limited amount of balizardas, so whenever one dies, so they can't just recruit like all of them, but whenever one dies, they're like, oh, now we have a free one. Let's hold this tournament and let all of our initiates beat each other up until one wins and he gets the balizarda.
Yeah.
And it felt like because we only saw Ansel and no other initiate, I thought, first of all, how many are there? Is this like a huge group of men? Because it's like in this society, obviously being a chasseur is something very heroic, something very like something that gives you a lot of praise. I mean, they get invitations from the king. It's clearly a very important position. So are they just droves of young men trying to be a chasseur, or is it like, oh yeah, we have 5 initiates, you know, they're running around cleaning rooms, dusting off shelves, and every couple of years one of us dies tragically, so we promote them. It felt a bit weird, and it felt like
it is
convenient,
strange and stupid, because Shelby has she hasn't thought about what the population size is. Like, 100, like, there are 100 special daggers that make you immune to magic. First of, why would you, like, let's be real here. Why doesn't the whole royal family have, like, one each and one, like, backup? The royal family would insist on having them. Why don't they have them? Weird. But also, okay, you have 100 special knives that you can give to witch hunters to make them immune to magic. Why don't you have even more witch hunters, though? Sure, some of them can then, like, a good majority can then be affected by magic, but they're still trained to hunt witches, so they can still be helpful, you know? And having more is always good. But we don't know what the population of the capital, Césarine, is. We don't know how many people live there. It seems like there's one bakery and, like, one place where, like, there's one theater. Like, it seems tiny. So 100 people seems like a lot. But it's not if they're supposed to be active all over the country.
Yeah.
100
it's
is
a small
not,
country. We've established that.
Yeah, and it's also like, why would they have a tournament? Wouldn't the most logical way to hand down these special knives be, like, personal apprenticeship? Because that's the most effective way to learn. And then these children would be chosen from a very young age to have, like, an apprenticeship and then inherited when their, like, teacher either dies or quits.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that make more sense? Why hold a tournament? That seems like a waste. Because also, like, you have the witch hunters, but you also have the police, which is never explained how many there are, what the relationship is. Apparently, the chasseurs also go out and investigate small-time criminals because they beat up the wife of one of them, even though there's only 100 of them, and there's, like, witches around to hunt and kill.
I think the small criminal thing was really just because of Lou. But one thing, I thought these balizardas, like, make them immune to magic, and that there's maybe people aren't able to cast magic when they're close to them or something. But when there was this scene where they're confronted with what was her name? With the witch that then burns. Yeah. And she's like a smart witch because she doesn't use magic directly against Reed, but she like makes something drop on him. I thought, how useless is that? Like, they can't directly be killed or hurt if a witch like witches that does magic. But if they were, for example, in the mountains and the witch would make a rock explode and then there'd be a gigantic rock slide, the chasseur would still be dead.
Yeah.
I thought that was like, yeah, they won't succumb to the beauty and like witchy charm of a witch.
They literally show them like levitating people and turning people into like monstrous things, and like obviously you can use the magic to physically affect people, and like you can make them unconscious and stuff, and that's like, I think it's actually like in theory it's good to have the anti-magic objects nerfed because the magic isn't supposedly that powerful either. Like, I think the issue is that the powerful witches have understood that trading one thing for something equivalent doesn't mean they have to trade something from themselves. That's only what Lou's doing. She clearly sucks at this. But those people are clearly using other people's bodies as like fodder for their magic, which is like, okay, that's cool. Like, that's interesting. You can do a lot with that. But it's also like, the magic is just not defined. Like, Lou is very limited in what she can do, and Coco is very limited in what she can do with her blood magic. But the other witches we see just do cool looking shit, and we have no idea how exactly it works.
It is also said at one point that the witches who do kind of breach those moral boundaries of using others, they kind of get like turn feral or something, or they lose something from themselves. Or if they do like use their own like memories and stuff, they lose too much so that they aren't really human anymore. I think at one point they mentioned it, like if they give away powerful emotions, for example, the emotion to love or the emotion to care or the ability for empathy, then, I mean, obviously you're going to turn into a cold being.
Yeah, the thing...
But I think there was something along those lines.
The thing, though, is then that wouldn't there be witch lore that you knew not to give these things away? And also, like, couldn't you also get them back if you were willing to sacrifice something else? Like, if you have to pay with your ability to see to blind someone else, can't you then get it back by, like, taking somebody else's? You know what I mean? Why shouldn't you be able to restore physical... Like, obviously they also, like, sucked energy out of some of the corpses that people, like, have found. That obviously
that was so
like
weird.
where I'm like, okay, you can just, in your magic, exchange, like, your physical wellness for power. And then you can just get it back from something. Who says that if you, like... It was also said that depending on how a witch sees the world, her, like, exchanges differ. So if I see a tree as a important life form, why can't I just kill a tree and, like, unbreak all my bones that I broke to kill a guy? Why can't I just do that? Like, I could be able to do that, and, like, it's just... The magic system is, like, both defined, but only for Lou, and then it's like, oh, we want powerful witches as antagonists, so they can just do whatever, I guess.
I really would have wished to get more of the witches and like witch lore and less of just Lou being stuck in a room and getting Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, it's also just like, why are some witches more powerful than others if it's just about exchange? Then, like, wouldn't your power just depend on, like, your creativity and how versatile, like, your possible exchanges are? In that case, like, shouldn't... Like, I don't know, if Lou was raised like that, shouldn't she be better at, like, playing situations? Like, she should be better at analyzing things. Because, like, if you grow up like that for 16 years, just because you don't use the magic for 2 years doesn't mean you don't see the connections anymore.
Yeah.
Like, witches should be people who see the world in a very interconnected way. But Lou literally does not consider, like, results of any of her actions. She's just like, oh,
Maybe
actions
because
exist
she's
in a
so
vacuum,
dumb.
actually. Like,
Hey, she's just too dumb for that.
yeah, that's why
Yeah.
she's a weak witch, because she just has no brain.
Imagine though, you're like the daughter of one of the most powerful witches in existence. You grew up a pampered life, but because you're stupid, you're not a good witch.
I mean,
I would gladly sacrifice myself.
amazing. It's like, what is even the point if you're stupid? You might as well just die.
At least we're not wasting any talent here by killing me.
Yeah. They were all like, you know what? I do like Lou. She's my friend. But goddamn, we're not losing anything by sacrificing this woman. Like, she's not gonna innovate shit.
This is a double blessing that we're having here.
They were like, oh, the goddess knew we were gonna sacrifice her, so she was like, okay, I'm not even gonna bother with competence here.
That's why we're sacrificing her and not like Janet over there.
Yeah. I just, also this book, like, as I mentioned before, it's like, the pop feminism of it is incredibly grating. Like, there are so many moments where it tries to make, like, comments on gender and gender roles, and it's just like, you don't know enough about this to talk about it. Please shut up. You just sound stupid. None of this is good. Like, truly, like, where I even wrote this down. Where is it? Lou says something, like, Lou says so many things where it's just like, oh god, this is stupid. Oh yeah, she says something like, it's a dangerous time to be female. Girl, witches have been hunted for centuries, according to you. It's always been dangerous to be a woman. Like, your times are not special. But also, then she says stuff like, I didn't hold it against him. He was a man after all. Or something. And at another point she says, didn't all men share some sort of unspoken camaraderie, a mutual understanding of their own collective importance? Just, fucking kill me. We can do anything you can do, and probably better. Like, shut the fuck up, Lou. Shut the fuck up.
I think I even sticky tapped one of those quotes, but...
Yeah, also, after they're married, when Rita's like, you're my wife, that means you belong to me, you have to do what I say, she was like, oh, does that mean you'll protect me, then? If we're adhering to the roles of your dusty old patriarchy? Like, girl, no. Shut the fuck up. Just, my god.
She's like, oh, I'm safe now because I'm wifed up. And it's like...
no, even before that, she's just like, I don't understand what danger is, and I'll just have cool, snappy comebacks, because I'm cool, and so powerful, I'm such an empowered woman. That's like, yeah, girl, you're literally in mortal danger every time you behave like this, because you could be accused as a witch, so, maybe tone that down? Like...
I wanted to see if I could find some information in Blood and Honey to, like, enhance our discussion. And I'm
enhance the discussion by
I'm gonna
talking
send
about a
this
book
to you.
neither of us has read.
If people want to have a good laugh, this is the article on the Young Folks book review, Blood and Honey by Shelby Mahurin. And, like, the first couple of sentences... it's like, the main charm of the original book, Lou and Reed's steamy forbidden romance, has sputtered to a small spark due to the angsty and aimless plot. Reed wrestles with his newfound identity of being both a witch and a witch hunter, giving him his own emo golem moments, as I like to call them, where he struggles with the voices in his head. He hates magic, yet it is part of him now. At the same time, Lou pulls an Anakin Skywalker and struggles with succumbing to her own powerful magic in order to keep Reed safe from harm. She goes so emo that she even undergoes a crappy dye job, albeit unintentionally. Even Ansel and Coco are caught up in their own teenage drama, which I will keep vague for the sake of spoilers.
Oh, God. But really, that also brings me to the point, like, why is Reed a witch? He already has, like, he's already struggling with the fact that he's married to a witch, even though he spent his whole life hating them. And he also has a mom who's a witch. Like, he's already struggling with that. He doesn't need to also be a witch. He's already overpowered. He's like, he's the tallest man around, and he's really strong, and he's the best fighter, which is why he's captain of the chasseur, even though he's very young. Like, he's already the specialist boy. He doesn't need magic on top of that. We already have someone who's bad at doing magic. We don't need two people.
It would also have been so interesting because obviously he knows the best ways to kill a witch. They could use this information.
Yeah.
They want to literally kill witches, you know, to keep Lou out of harm.
Yeah. Ugh, it's just... Oh my god. Furthermore, the plot is simply just not interesting. Yeah, I think this can be said about the first book as well. The thing, though, is about the first book especially, that's why I thought it was a duology, because it feels like there's not that much left to do. I thought, like, if it were a trilogy, wouldn't it be better, plot-wise, if Reed and Lou ended the book apart and, like...
Yeah.
in conflict, and not as in, oh yeah, we love each other so much we killed people to save each other. Like... why is he, like, he gets over her being a witch so fast. And she gets over him being someone who's killed, like, friends or acquaintances of her, like, so quickly, too. I know there's a scene where she's just like, oh, he's told me he loves me. That means he won't hurt me, even if he finds out I'm a witch. And it's just like, Lou, you are the dumbest person alive. Shut the fuck up.
I found another article.
Oh.
It's called "What the Fuck Even Happened in Blood and Honey."
A good sign.
After narrowly escaping death at the hands of the Dame Blanche, Lou, Reed, Coco, and Angela are on the run from Coven, Kingdom, and Church, fugitives with nowhere to hide. To elude the scores of witches and throngs of chasseurs at their heel, Lou and Reed need allies, strong ones. This is like the blurb.
Yeah.
But protection comes at a price, and the group is forced to embark on separate quests to build their forces. As Lou and Reed try to close the widening rift between them, the dastardly Morgaine baits them in a lethal game of cat and mouse that threatens to destroy something worth more than any coven. So, like,
their
relationship,
whatever.
I guess. And the first sentence, that's like the article itself. This series should have clearly been a duology because literally nothing happened until the very end of this book.
Oh wow. This is why I thought it was
Nothing
a duology.
happens
like...
for 80% of the book. The group decides that they need allies if they're going to fight this and go to meet different people for it. That's it. That's the story. It would have been so much better if the author would cut that part short.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I am just waiting for a fucking pregnancy plot to turn up here. Like, I am just, like, this seems almost inevitable. Like, there's so much focus on people being related and, like, children and stuff. I'm like, there's no way they're not even, like, it feels so on brand for what kind of story this is.
Apparently in the next book, Lou gets, like, very destructive and harmful with her magic, and she gets, like, more evil the more magic she uses. I'm a witch, Reed. A witch. I have the power to protect the ones I love, and I will sacrifice anything for them. If that makes me a monster, if that makes me aberrant, I'll don the teeth and claws to make it easier for you. I'll get worse if that justifies your twisted rhetoric. Much, much worse.
Jesus Christ. Oh dear. This is, it's just, the problem is that she should know better. Like, like, a corruption arc only works if a character has, like, morals or consistency and, like, good reasons. But if you already know it's going to ruin you if you use magic in a specific way, then, like, why do it? you know? It's just like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now I want to know what happens
contrived.
in the third book. Gods and Monsters, it's called.
What? No.
Gods and Monsters.
It's called Gods and Monsters? That's so embarrassing. Like, come on. Gods are not relevant here. This is...
I thought Blood and Honey was so cool, especially because I knew that was the second title, and then it comes up in the book, and I'm like, oh, Blood and Honey!
Like, Serpent and Dove is a good dichotomy. Blood and Honey is also a good one. Gods and Monsters doesn't fit here. It's too grandiose. It's like Serpent and Dove and Blood and Honey. This is about symbolism. Like, these things mean something. Gods and Monsters is just, oh, it sounds cool. I was like, wow.
So, I mean, I obviously am getting spoiled with this. But you might remember that the second book left off with Lou being possessed by the Dame Rouge, Nicolina, effectively betraying and breaking the truce they agreed on with Coco's aunt, Josephine.
Okay.
Cool trope. You might also remember that Ansel was killed by Morgaine. They kill off a little boy.
I mean, honestly, that's the most he's contributed to the plot, so good.
The whole group feels Ansel's loss heavily, so much that no one catches on to Lou's possession.
This sounds like a Vampire Diaries episode.
Oh my god, it does. Or like Supernatural, like Dean is possessed for half an episode.
Supernatural. It's too romance heavy for Supernatural. There we can only queerbait. We can't have actual romance.
Oh my god, Celie is still in there. She now is on their side because she was kidnapped by Morgaine.
What for?
Oh my god, along the way they encounter mermaids in a land under the lieu melancholique, a dragon and a few gods who can't interfere in the affairs of mortals.
Why are there gods? This is so bad. I knew this series would go downhill and the first one wasn't good, but this is stupider.
If you think that the ensemble can't get larger, you're wrong. Each character and dynamic works perfectly and brings out the best of each other. Truly. It's a found family aspect. I don't know, they're literally all related.
Literally a found family.
Bo and Lou suddenly have a bond.
They're gonna ruin Bo, the funniest bitch in the series. Tragic.
Oh my god. What do we have here? This book just came out last year.
Oh yeah, true. It would have, yeah. When the first one came out in 2019, yeah. Then 2020, and then 21, 22, yeah.
Alright, so it seems that at least the last book is better than the second book.
I mean, if 80% of the second book are like nothing happening, but I can't imagine it being much worse.
By the way, do we want to stop the recording?
Yeah, we can. 3 hours. We can like try to do some like closing thoughts and then finish up.
And then we can just fawn about this.
Yeah, yeah.
This file is going to be so big. All in all,
yeah.
This book for me is a typical book. Oh, I think I got it. Jetzt hat jemand geklingelt.
No.
Leon is going.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Your closing thoughts.
Yes. So, to say, for this book, for me, it's a completely fine YA book. It's standard. It did make me chuckle. It did at some point like really caught my attention and made me read it, but there was a lack of involvement for me in there. Like at a lot of points I was like, this just isn't enough. Like I would love to have a little bit more. And if you turn your brain off, like with other YA books, it's perfectly enjoyable. But as soon as you try to think about anything happening in the book, it's a no for me. So in terms of rating, I would give it a 2, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've been pretty clear about this. I think this book is genuinely bad. It is the epitome of everything that is wrong with YA publishing at the moment. The plot is as thin as ice in, like, 2-degree weather. The characters are flatter than, like, a piece of paper. The relationships are equally flat and uninteresting. The writing is lackluster to very bad. There is no genuine redeeming feature in it. It is offensive in that it squanders a very good premise and does nothing with it and ruins it for anyone who would want to write something very similar anytime soon. So, I guess if I was rating it on, like, pure competency and, like, of the writing and execution, I'd be like, yeah, it's, like, a 1.5, maybe a 2. But this is so boring to read and has made me so mad while reading it a second time because every character is so fucking stupid. Yeah, if literally the lowest rating that will be allowed. If a 0 goes, a 0, but I know Goodreads doesn't have 0, so it would be a 1 star. I fucking hate. Don't read this. You can do better. Don't read like 300 Sarah J. Maas books before you pick this up.
Yeah. To be honest, if you want a little bit more fun and enjoyment, read S.J. Maas books. At least you'll get a good laugh out of it.
Yeah, like, I would not say that Sarah J. Maas's writing is particularly good, but anything but this, please. Like, anything but this. This is not worth it. If you were on the... I mean, if you were interested in something like this, you might just get, like, a cheap bodice ripper for, like, €4 at, like, the airport instead. I think that might be more fun. At least that has smut in it, and this is just nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the disappointment weighs too much with this book.
Yeah, it's just...
At too many corners.
I think the problem is also that I had to read it twice, even though I already didn't enjoy it the first time. That makes it worse. Having to experience this again makes me even angrier at it. It's just... please don't read it. If you have to, just either get it secondhand or from the library. Don't spend money. Yeah. It's not worth it. Like, buy some baked goods instead and, like, imagine a better story around the summary, please.
Yeah, with that being said, and the outlook on the whole trilogy, I think that's some solid advice there. All right.
Yeah, this was very long. I guess when we discuss books, it might generally get longer than, like, the trope discussions, but yeah, if you stuck around this long, we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for listening. So
let's see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.